This is a recap of The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. The Wheel of Time Book 2. Prologue, In the Shadow. The man who calls himself Boris is at a gathering of summoned dark friends, assembled as though it were a social event. There are 100 dark friends in attendance. They are all masked, but Boris notices a good number of them have not bothered to change their clothing or hide other clues. He is able to identify an Eliana noblewoman wearing a low-cut scarlet dress and golden slippers, a Domani woman wearing a golden bracelet identifying her house, a Shinarian soldier, a tinker wearing green pants and a yellow coat, a High Lord of Tyr, an Andorran Queen's Guard, a Sea Folk man, 2 Aes Sedai, and people from Kandar, Carrion, Chaldea, and Gildan. Boris is completely disguised so no one can identify him, even taking care to hide his height and build with a slouch. The door opens and 2 Trollocs and a Myrtle enter. The Myrtle announces to the dark friends that their master comes. A red-masked man identifying himself as Baalzamon enters. He tells them that the room where they are gathered is near Sheol Ghul. Boris wonders if he really is the Dark One or if one of the Forsaken has been set free. Baalzamon forms images of Rand al'Thor, Mat Cauthon, and Paranai Bara and tells the dark friends to know them and await further instructions. He also says that the dragon has been reborn, but has not yet declared himself so. The Shinarian asks if he is to be killed, but Baalzamon says it would be better if the dragon returned to serve him. He gives orders to each of the dark friends individually. He commands Boris to return to Terban and keep up his good work there. He is to keep a lookout for the 3 Ta'veren, but also to keep quiet about those who have landed on Toman Head. He then sees images of the Sheol Ghul sky, a young woman dressed in white, a raven, a Shanchan soldier, the Horn of Valir, and a wolf. These are subliminal commands that have been implanted into Boris. Escorted by Azamara, Boris nervously returns to his room and hastily dons his normal clothes, wondering if the promise of immortality was worth a meeting such as this. His garments are that of a white cloak questioner. Chapter 1. The Flame of Tar Valon. A wind blows from the mountains of Doom through the Great Blight to the fortress city of Fal Dara in Shinar. The trees have new growth as spring was late in coming. Rand al'Thor and Lan Mandragoran are practicing sword fighting in a tower in the middle of Fal Dara. The wind blows so strongly at Rand that he is unable to back away from a thrust by Lan. Lan's practiced sword shatters and injures Rand. This is the first known instance of a bubble of evil. Lan questions Rand on why he hasn't left Fal Dara when he had said he was going to leave a month ago. Rand makes excuses, saying that he needs to learn sword fighting to protect himself. The sword makes him think about his father Tam. Lan remarks that when a man raises a boy in the Borderlands, he is regarded as the father regardless of birth. Rand learns from Lan that his Heronmark sword is power-wrought, just like Lan's. It will never dull or rust. Lan says that Rand has learned well enough that others will believe he has a right to the sword, and he does not have time to learn enough to be a true blade master. So Lan asks again why Rand is not gone. Rand mentions his friends Mat Cauthon and Paranai Bara as well as Egwene Alvir, and how he may never see them again once they part. Lan presses further and finally Rand admits the real reason he is hoping Moiraine can help him further, but now she refuses to talk to him and frequently goes elsewhere for her own reasons. Lan says that even he cannot question what Moiraine does, but she did in fact return last night. Lan tells Rand that he is wasting time and should at least resume his practice, but then they hear the sound of trumpets and drums. Rand looks out from the tower and sees banners inscribed with the flame of Tar Valon as a large group approaches Fal Dara. Lan says it is the Amyrlin seat and that Rand should have left earlier before this could happen. Rand scrambles down the tower, hoping to get away as soon as possible. Chapter 2. The Welcome. Rand goes to his room so he can pack to leave Fal Dara. He finds Alansu, Chataean of the Keep, with some of the servants taking his old clothes and those of Mat and Perrin and replacing it with new, much fancier clothing. Elansa tells Rand that Moiraine Sedai asked her to remove all the old clothes, every stitch, even the small clothes. This makes Rand blush as he is still getting accustomed to bold Shianarian ways. Rand asks Alansu and other servants to wait outside and promises to give them the clothes he is wearing, including his boots. Rand notices, to his horror, that his new cloak has been embroidered with the symbol of the dragon from the dragon banner. He hopes nobody who saw it knows what it means. After changing, he grabs some spare clothes, taking care to bury the cloak in the middle of the bundle. He plans to remove the embroidery later. He also takes Tom Maryland's harp, flute, and cloak and leaves the keep for the stables. He cuts through the courtyard to get to the stables as quickly as possible. At the courtyard, the Merlin's party is just arriving. Rand sees warders with their color-shifting cloaks standing in the courtyard. A dozen paces in front of the warders stood 14 Aes Sedai. There is a curtained palanquin in the center of the courtyard, carrying the Amerlin seat. An elaborate ceremony is in progress where the Amerlin is greeted by Lord Agelmar Jagged. Despite his hurry, Rand slows down and watches the ceremony. At the stables, Rand is told by Tima that no one may leave, not on horse or on foot. Tima tells Rand that the order came only a few moments ago. All the gates are closed and no one can enter or leave without permission. Rand asks Tima if the order has come from Lord Agelmar. Tima replies positively, as who else can give such an order in Fal Dara, but Rand has his doubts. Rand runs off when Tima mentions that the ceremony in the courtyard is finished and the Amerlin will be sending for Rand soon. Chapter 3: Friends and Enemies. Rand is still trying to get out of the city because he fears what the Amerlin will do to him. He runs into Massima and Reagan guarding a Sally gate. Reagan would likely have let him out despite their orders otherwise, but Massima is there and will not deviate from duty. Other gates he checks are also locked and guarded. Even the dog gate is guarded. He starts wandering around with no particular purpose, just hoping to go to places where people won't be looking for him. He wonders if Moraine sent for the Amerlin because of him, and that's why she's in the city. Eventually he ends up in a storeroom and runs into Loyal. Thinking that the city was built by Ogier, Rand asks him if he knows the city's layout and possible exits. Loyal says that the Ogier built Mayfildadrinel, but that city is gone and Fal Dara, which now stands in its place, was built by men. Matt and Perrin are also there, and Matt is winning at dice. Matt and Perrin do not know Rand can channel, so they don't understand his desire to leave the keep. Rand, wanting to keep Matt and Perrin out of it, gets into a fight with them so they won't want to come with him. Then he is rude to Loyal and even makes Loyal mad, so now he can leave the city alone. Leaving, Rand runs into Egwene, who says that she spoke to Matt and the others. Rand tells Egwene that he needs to leave before the Aes Sedai get him, but Egwene holds onto him when he tries to go. Egwene says that he can just hide where nobody expects and suggests the dungeons. She goes to see Pad and Fane there sometimes anyway, so it would be fine for her to take him there now. Rand tells Egwene that she should have asked Moraine whether it is wise to visit Pad and Fane. Egwene retorts that she doesn't need to ask Moraine for permission and says that Fane is someone she can talk about home with. Since she has been doing it for a while anyway, Rand eventually agrees to go. The guards used to be pleasant to Egwene, but now Changu is very surly and Nidao is silent. They pass the other prisoners who snarl at them, and Egwene notes that the prisoners have gotten worse over time too. Fane tells Rand that he will be on the Dark One's side when Fane is done with him. Egwene says that Fane is not normally like this and realizes it was a bad idea to bring Rand down here. Egwene then suggests hiding Rand in the women's quarters. Rand thinks this is crazy because the Aes Sedai must be there, but Egwene points out that it would be the last place anyone would look. Rand reluctantly agrees. Chapter 4: Summoned. Moraine adjusts her dress and dons her formal shawl as she will soon meet the Amerlin. She prepares to face her sisters, some of which she may not be happy to see. Liandrin and Ania come to Moraine's rooms to bring her to the Amerlin. Moraine is pleased to see Ania, who is her friend. Liandrin protests that Moraine should not have her room warded against sisters, but Moraine says the room is warded against all. Along the way they tell her of the 3 false dragons in Saldia, Miandi and Tyr. The 3 pass down the halls as servants and nobles curtsy to them alike. Moraine and Ania acknowledge the curtsies, but Liandrin ignores them. Moraine sees Egwene scurry down the hall, a crouched shape behind her. Moraine realizes that Egwene is up to something. Ania says that Elaine and Gawain have come to the tower. Elaine was born with the spark and may be the first queen to reach full Aes Sedai in ages. The Great Hunt of the Horn has been called in Ilion. Enya then mentions rumors that the sea folk and the Ale are stirring. Liandrin adds mention of Almouth Plain, which surprises even herself, but Enya says that there were only faint rumors of fighting there, as they were leaving Tar Valon. They enter the Amerlin's chambers. Varen Mathwin and Seraphel, Carlinia, Alanimus Vanni, and a yellow sister whom Moraine does not recognize are all in attendance. Lean, the keeper of the chronicles, comes out to bring Moraine into the inner room to see the Amerlin. Moraine enters into a discussion with Suin Sanche, the Amerlin, with Lean observing. The Amerlin had her vessels sped up with the power to reach Moraine quickly, even though doing so caused flooding and crop damage along the way. She did this to bring urgent news to Moraine. Elida has left her post as Queen Morgase's advisor so that she could bring Elaine to the tower. Elaine will be a channeler of great power, and the Red Ajah's discovery of her brings them clout with the Hall of the Tower, which is very concerned with the Aes Sedai's dwindling numbers. The Red Ajah hope that Elaine will choose to join them. Moraine mentions that Egwene, who is with her, will be just as strong, as she has met the two of them and can compare. Nynaeve is also present in the city, and she will be stronger still, and neither of the two will choose the Red. Elida also told the Hall that she had found a dangerous young man who is Ta'veren in Caemlyn, but before she could do anything Moraine had spirited him away. Some in the Hall suggested severe punishment on Moraine for this, including sitters of the Green Ajah who have always aligned themselves with Moraine's blue, usually in opposition to the Red. Thankfully, the proposal did not pass. Suin sends Lean out of the room and moves closer to hug Moraine, recalling their time as novices. Moraine is the only one Suin can truly trust. Suin wards the room against eavesdropping, and they begin to discuss their secret plans, which would have dire consequences for the two of them if they were discovered. They are Aes Sedai and will do what must be done. Chapter 5: The Shadow and Shinar. Moraine tells Suin that Lean will support her in her secret plans, but Suin dares not trust Lean too much. The initial plan was to hide Rand in Tar Valon where they could instruct him in secret. Suin is frustrated because Moraine only sent her 2 messages since she left Tar Valon, one saying that she was entering the 2 rivers and one from Caemlyn saying they were heading for Fal Dara, rather than Tar Valon. They examined the Horn of Valir, which Agelmar gave to Suin as soon as she arrived. And prophecy said it would only be found just in time for the last battle. Agelmar knew that he had to be rid of it, because he desired to use it for glory, while the prophecies say that it must be blown by one only thinking of salvation. Moraine shows Suin the broken seal, further confirming the last battle is imminent. Suin recalls that she identified Rand when she saw him in the courtyard. She has the talent to see Ta'veren. Moraine confirms that he is indeed the dragon reborn and can channel Satan. Moraine details her new plan. She has purposefully left Rand alone lest she trigger the infamous Manetherin stubbornness. She will gently prompt Mat and Perrin to take the horn to Ilion, and Rand will want to go with them. She will arrange for Rand present it to the Council of 9. Everyone knows that the horn is linked to the dragon, and in finding it he will be able to proclaim himself the true dragon and have the hunters of the horn and Ilion behind him immediately. Moraine will not travel with them, so that Rand does not feel that he is doing the bidding of Aes Sedai. She has destroyed their clothes and will cleanse everyone before they leave, so there will be no traces for the shadow spawn to follow. They also plan to heal Mat of the Taint from the ruby-hilted dagger immediately in Fal Dara, rather than going to Tar Valon. With Moraine's Onreal, she and Suin will only need 2 other trusted sisters, of which Lean can be one. Moraine is careful about what she tells to Suin, but she also cannot leave the impression that she is not telling everything. When Moraine leaves and goes back to the outer chamber, she pretends to have been chastened by the Amerlin seat. Geoffram Bornhold leads 2,000 white cloaks into Alcruna near the Almouth Plain. He is annoyed because he was called back to Amador from Caemlyn when he thought Morgase was near to being overthrown. Aemon Valda insisted on following Elaine's procession to Tar Valon. Bornhold's son Dane went with Valda. In Amador, Pedron Neil told him to take a legion to Alcruna where he would receive further orders. He had asked if this has to do with rumors of Arthur Hawkwing's army returning, but Neil did not answer. As he nears Alcruna, he is met by a group of questioners led by Einar Saren, second in command to Jachim Caridin. He tells Bornhold that there are strangers on Toman Head. He says that the strangers fight with monsters. Bornhold calls Jarrett Beyer and tells him to lead the men into Alcruna. Lyandrin is walking through the women's quarters as evening approaches and enters Lady Amelisa's apartments. One of her attendants is reading aloud The Dance of the Hawk and the Hummingbird by Tevin Erwin, a book supposedly outlining proper behavior between men and women. When Amelisa sees and welcomes Lyandrin, Lyandrin sends the attendants away harshly. Lyandrin chastises Amelisa for her foolishness, and then questions her about dark friends, and how the shadow can overcome those who claim to walk in the light. Amelisa is insulted, and Lyandrin begins asking her about Moraine and the dark friend in the dungeons. She finally cracks Amelisa's defenses when she suggests that Agelmar may be a dark friend. In Amelisa's moment of vulnerability, Lyandrin uses her compulsion on her. She tells her to find the 3 boys Moraine came to Fal Dara with. She says they must be taken secretly to Tar Valon because of the Black Aja. Amelisa says that the Black Aja is not real, but Lyandrin insists. Amelisa is terrified and agrees. This visit reveals Lyandrin's true identity as Black Aja. Padan Fane is waiting for something in his cell, something he knows is coming very soon. The door to the outer guardroom opens and the light outlines the figure who enters. When Fane sees who it is, he says, "You. Not who I expected. Surprises for everyone, eh?" As the other person enters the cell chamber, Fane whispers, "It isn't over yet. The battle's never over." Chapter 6, Dark Prophecy. Rand awakes from a nightmare in Egwene's apartment in the women's quarters of Fal Dara Keep. Nynaeve is there, knitting but not really paying attention to it. She tells Rand that Egwene has gone off to visit Padan Fane, with Mat or Perrin if she can find them. Rand exclaims that Fane is dangerous. Rand asks Nynaeve whether a search has started for him yet, and Nynaeve reports curious movements of maids in the halls. The maids should have their hands full preparing for the feast that is being held for the Amerlin later tonight, but instead they are running around everywhere. Nynaeve even saw Lady Amelisa emerge from a storeroom with dust all over her face. Rand is convinced that a search for him would be carried out by soldiers, so he dismisses this. Nynaeve concedes that it doesn't make sense for Amelisa to be searching for Rand, but she must have been searching for something desperately. Nynaeve saw that even the men were confused about the behavior of the women. An alarm sounds, and after they conclude that it's not about Rand, he becomes worried about Egwene, who was visiting Padan Fane. He goes in search of her and finds the Amerlin in the hallway. He runs into a myrtle on the way to the dungeon and is afraid. Ingtar arrives and tells Rand that he will take care of the Fade. Rand makes it to the dungeons and finds the guards dead and messages on the walls written in blood. One message on the door says, "We will meet again on Toman Head. It is never over, Althor." He scrubs off the message just as Lyandrin arrives, who tries to use compulsion on him to find out his name and what he is doing. Rand resists, not telling Lyandrin anything. Desperate, he is about to reach for Satan as Moraine arrives and Lyandrin stops her weave. He rushes into the cells and finds that the other prisoners have gone insane. Then he finds Egwene and Mat on the floor, passed out, in Padan Fane's cell. Moraine calls for the guards to get a litter for Mat and Egwene. Moraine says that Egwene only suffered a minor head injury and will be all right. As Moraine is seeing to Mat, she says his dagger is gone, and to take him to the Amerlin. Lyandrin is incensed at her lack of information and being mostly ignored, but can do nothing except leave. Ingtar rushes in and tells Rand that the Horn of Valir is gone. Trollocs made it into the keep through the dog gate. The guardsmen at the gate had their throats cut by someone they knew, a dark friend. Rand learns from Ingtar that Lord Agelmar had not previously issued that order for all the gates to be closed, which confuses him greatly. As he follows Ingtar out of the dungeon, he sees Varen and another brown Aes Sedai transcribe the Trolloc writing on the walls. Outside he meets Lan, who is very amused by the story of Rand running through the women's apartments with a sword. Lan tells Rand that he is free to leave any time even though Agelmar has ordered the keep locked down, as Moraine insisted that he be exempt. Rand asks Lan whether Moraine issued the earlier order to stop him from leaving, but Lan only looks troubled and says nothing. Chapter 7 Blood Calls Blood. Lean, Varen, Moraine, and the Emerlin have just finished performing healing on Matt to reduce the ruby-hilted dagger's influence on him. Lean takes the servants carrying Matt out of the room. The remaining three discuss what to do, as the healing cannot be complete without the dagger present. Matt only has a few months to live unless he can be reunited with the dagger in time. Moraine is thinking about how to modify her earlier plan to prompt Matt to take the Horn of Valir to Elian as a way to get Rand to Elian to declare himself the dragon. They conclude that to save Matt's life the dagger must be retrieved, and Matt is the best person for the job as he can retrieve and hold the dagger safely, but anyone else who touches it will be subject to its effects. Suin moves to dismiss Varen so she can discuss matters privately with Moraine, but Varen tells her of the Trolloc script scrawled all over the prison walls. It is a long, rambling poem that has tinges of prophecy in it but may also just be a taunt or a message meant to sow confusion. It talks of Lanfear walking the world again and seeking a new lover and the man who channels sacrificing his friends. This troubles Moraine as it is well known that Lanfear was Luz Theron's lover before he met and married his wife. The subsequent passages are less understandable and make references to Luke Mantir, Isam Mandragoran, Toman Head, and possibly the return of the armies of Arthur Hawkwing. Finally, it unmistakably says that the return of the Dark One approaches. Varen discusses the passages with Suin and Moraine, and whether it is prophecy or just nonsense. Varen does not have a conclusion, she merely goes through the text slowly and deliberately, and discusses what they might mean. Suin becomes increasingly irritable at the Brown sisters' long-windedness until Moraine dismisses it as just a murder ploy to confuse and frighten them, but then Varen reveals that she has deduced that the male channeler mentioned must be one of the three young men traveling with Moraine. Moraine panics and embraces Sadar as she is prepared to shield or even harm Varen, and she sees Suin do the same. Varen realizes that Suin, Moraine's oldest friend, has been helping her the entire time. Suin blusters and tries to dismiss Varen's implicit accusation, but it is too late as Varen's suspicions are confirmed by their reactions. Varen says that she knows the only reason the Emerlin and Moraine would do as they have is that the young man is not just any male channeler but is in fact the Dragon Reborn. She also confirms that nobody else shares her knowledge even though Seraphel helped her transcribe the Trolloc script. Moraine relents and tells Varen to sit down and tell them everything she knows. Varen says it is unlikely anyone else has figured it out, as her first clue came 20 years ago as the Ao were outside the walls of Tar Valon. Varen has forced her way into Moraine and Suin's conspiracy to help the Dragon Reborn. Perrin sneaks into the infirmary to visit Matt. He recalls the night before when he was in the gardens and maids were watching him. He heard one of the maids run to fetch Liandrin Sedai. Matt wakes up briefly and remembers Egwene telling him to come to the dungeon and see Fane with her. After Matt goes back to sleep, Lean comes in and Perrin stands up defensively, saying that he hasn't disturbed Matt's rest. Lean had previously prevented Perrin from coming in to see Matt. Lean blocks Perrin's exit, and he feels her use the power on him. She remarks on Perrin's odd eyes but says he is healthy. Perrin only says that he was born with those eyes. He picks her up and moves her out of his way, then exits the room. Perrin comes back to the room he shares with Rand, who is tossing around in bed. Perrin is still angry over Rand's earlier words when Rand was trying to distance himself from his friends. Rand apologizes and explains that he's in trouble and mentions Liandrin. Perrin says that Liandrin wants him too, which confuses Rand. Perrin is happy to hear that Rand didn't really mean what he said, but then Rand says they can't leave together, so Perrin storms out of the room. Rand feels better about leaving after hearing from Perrin that Matt is all right. Lan comes in to tell Rand that the Emerlin has summoned him and makes him change his clothes. Lan also quickly trains him in etiquette, which confuses Rand, until Rand realizes that Lan is trying to make him seem like a man from Manetheren. Chapter 8 The Dragon Reborn. Feeling sick with nervousness, Rand follows Lan down the hall to the Emerlin's chambers. Lean, acting as gatekeeper, refuses entry to Lan, telling him that Moraine has a task for him. Moraine is inside the Emerlin's room with Varen. Rand presents himself according to Lan's instructions, prompting the Aes Sedai to look at him curiously. They conclude that this weird behavior is Lan's doing. Moraine reveals that Rand's father Tam was a blade master in the Eleanor Companions, and that he married a woman from Camelin. The Emerlin tests Rand's mettle by threatening to take his sword away, which Rand does not take kindly to. She is pleased at Rand's response. She tells Rand that Mat and Perrin are going with Ingter to find the stolen horn of Valir and the dagger that Mat needs to stay alive. He can go with them on their hunt, or he can stay here as Lord Agelmar's guest. But he would be staying behind alone, as Moraine, Egwene and Nynaeve will be returning with the Emerlin to Tar Valon. Rand tries to discern what the Aes Sedai want him to do so he can do something else, but ultimately he must help recover the dagger to save Mat's life. He says he will ride with Ingter. Now that Rand has decided on a course of action, the Emerlin flatly tells Rand that she knows he can channel. After the initial shock wears off, Rand asks her why she is not gentling him, to which she says, "Because you are the dragon reborn." Rand says that Tom told him all about this, and he will not be a White Tower pawn like the other false dragons. The Emerlin insists that he is the real dragon and not a fake. Moraine tells him the story of how he was born, with his father fighting a battle, and his mother giving birth on the slopes of Dragonmount. Rand's story is intertwined with Moraine's, who was an accepted 20 years ago when she witnessed Jatara Moroso's foretelling of his birth. The Emerlin was there as well, another accepted. Everything is consistent with the Carathon's cycle as well as what Rand heard from his father's fever dream. The Emerlin tells him that she will also speak with Perrin and Mat so that Rand will not be singled out. She warns him to be careful, as other Aes Sedai and men will not believe or do as they do. Rand still doesn't believe that he is the dragon and tells the Aes Sedai that he will not be used. Rand leaves the room after all their stories, and the Emerlin wonders what they are unleashing on the world. The Emerlin, Moraine and Varen agree that it is necessary to let him be free to fulfill the prophecies. Nynaeve feels a storm coming, but the storm is not weather-related and she doesn't quite understand. She could always feel the weather, but now she feels uncomfortable with the ability, knowing that it is her ability to channel that gives her this skill. Nynaeve sees Rand in the hallways and tries to catch up to him and find out what if anything happened at his meeting with the Emerlin. She fails to find him but encounters Lan instead. Nynaeve meets Lan in the hall and he calls her Mashiara and gives her his golden crane signet ring. He tells her that the ring will let her get help from any lord in the borderlands. She can also use it to send him a letter, and he will come help without delay. He leaves, saying he has work to do before the Emerlin's departure. Moraine enters the hall and tells Nynaeve that she didn't hear anything she shouldn't have, and that she should see to her packing for the trip to Tar Valon. Upon being asked about Rand's meeting, Moraine says only that the Emerlin will be seeing all three ta'veren. Egwene is in her room packing her things since she will be leaving for Tar Valon shortly. Nynaeve comes to see if she's ready, and Egwene can see that Nynaeve is thinking of Lan. Nishura comes and tells Egwene that a man is trying to see her, and says that it is Lord Rand. This irritates Nynaeve, who says he is too big for his britches. They go down the hall, where Rand is being blocked by guards, and Egwene says she will talk to him. The people in the hall trust Egwene will handle it and disperse. She asks him what the Emerlin wanted with him. He says she wanted to see ta'veren, and they discuss Aes Sedai and Fain. Rand says they will likely never see each other again, since she is going with Nynaeve to Tar Valon, and he is going to find the Horn of Valir with Ingter. Egwene says she'll find a way to help him. Chapter 9, Leave-Takings. Rand goes to the outer gate to join in preparation for the hunt, and is surprised to see Loial ride up. Loial still wishes to travel with ta'veren, no matter how dangerous. Mat and Perrin ride up to the group, see Rand's fancy coat, and ride away from him without a word. They haven't forgiven him for his words to them even though Rand tries to apologize. Loial accepts Rand's apology, however. Lan comes to give Rand a final lesson before they leave, sheathing the sword. There may come a time when Rand must kill his enemy at all costs. In that case, Rand must be willing to allow the opponent to strike a great blow in order to defeat him. Rand hears part of a conversation with Agelmar and the Emerlin. Agelmar is trying to convince her to stay longer, but she refuses. The Merlin is giving a brief speech to the departing party as Rand feels someone's eyes watching him. He feels uneasy and turns around to look at the balconies above. Suddenly, the Merlin is nicked with an arrow, and there are shouts of, "Find him! Stop him!" The arrow was aimed at Rand but missed when Rand turned around. The Merlin says they must not worry about her and go about their business. As they leave the city, the sniffer Hurin joins the party. Hurin is able to track the shadow spawn by smelling violence, and those who did it. Hurin directs them southward. Inkter mentions that Chang'e and Nidao, two of Fane's guards, are gone from the keep. He says they must be dark friends, even though they saved Agelmar during the Battle of Tarwin's Gap a month earlier. In Ilion, festivities continue for the Great Hunt, but Bel Dolmen has no interest in it. Dolmen was born in Ilion, but has traveled widely and is not used to his hometown anymore. His mind is preoccupied as he knows he is going to meet men who may be trying to kill him. He goes into Easing the Badger in the seedy part of town, where he takes a table by himself and gets a mug of ale. The innkeeper makes sure Dolmen sees her when she slides her gaze to 3 Carrionin in the corner. These men go over to Dolmen's table and say they have someone who needs to be transported from Mayene to the east. Dolmen says his ship is a riverboat unsuited to sailing in the sea, but they say that they have heard he is not sailing the rivers anymore. This troubles Dolmen, as he has decided not to sail back upriver but had not yet told anyone. They offer him 200 gold marks up front with another 800 to be paid later, an enormous sum for such a simple job. This is the 4th such job he has been offered, and this latest sum is 4 times the previous offer. They give him a sealed document to hand over to the port captain of Mayene where he will pick up his passenger. When he pays for his drink with the gold they gave him, the barkeep notices they are Tar Valon marks. Realizing the white cloaks are in town, he thinks that someone definitely wants him to leave the city, since passing those around would get noticed, and he would be thought to be in league with the witches. Yarin Maeldan, Dolmen's second on the ship, comes in to tell him that Sailor Karn is dead. Dolmen doesn't know what to do now, as his men got killed when he declined the previous jobs, yet now he agreed to the commission and still his man was killed. It looks like they tortured Karn for information before he was killed, and some men tried to sneak around the spray before that. Dolmen tells Yarin that they are leaving as soon as they have minimum crew on the ship and anyone who isn't on board is being left behind. Dolmen retires to his quarters on the ship and examines the sealed document. He heats the seal and removes it with a knife, revealing a document purportedly from Galdrian Riotin, king of Carrion. It says that the bearer of the document is a dark friend wanted for foul crimes and charges the recipient to arrest and hang him. Dolmen's possessions are to be held until men are sent to retrieve them, which prompts him to look through his collection of old artifacts. He recalls that he was first pursued by dark friends after purchasing 4 items in Maridin. He realizes that the item that brought him all this trouble is a quendular disc in the shape of the ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai. Not knowing that it is one of the 7 seals, he does not know why the dark friends want it. He tells Yarin to sail toward the Aerith Ocean, far away from the eastern ports that the dark friends wanted him to go to. Chapter 10. The hunt begins. Rand wonders if Inkter plans on killing the horses with the pace he has set. It seems that he wants to find the horn in one day. Rand wants to talk privately with Matt and Perrin to apologize and explain, but Matt always prompts Perrin to avoid him. Inkter finally decides they cannot continue on horseback their current pace, and they alternate between riding and running along with the horses. When they camp for the night, Rand checks his bags and is annoyed that all his clothes are too fancy. Inkter tells him to stop complaining and jokes that Rand will be well dressed for their celebration feast after they find the horn. Rand is perplexed by Uno and Massima's behavior toward him. Inkter says that Uno is just trying to gauge Rand to see if he is worthy of that heron-marked blade. Massima, on the other hand, only sees an ale when he sees Rand, and he fought the ale for many years. Rand insists that he is a shepherd from the 2 rivers, but Loyal reminds him that Loyal was mistaken on their first meeting too. Inkter speaks of the unparalleled hardiness and fighting ability of the ale. The next morning, they find where the Trollocs camped for the night. There is evidence that the Trollocs killed humans and ate them, perhaps some of the dark friends with them. Huron says they have turned northeast now. They follow the trail until they find a dead man nobody recognizes, and the trail turns south again. They continue this zigzag pattern for several days, where they follow the trail northward for a few hours in the morning before spending the rest of the day going southward. Inter considers going just south as a shortcut but quickly dismisses the idea because the pattern may change at any time. They are gaining ground slowly each day. Inter speaks frequently of their glory being immortalized in history once they find the horn, which disturbs everyone. Sheenarans seek duty, not glory. They come to the river Aranin and an empty village. Uno spots a white-dressed woman in the otherwise empty village, but they cannot find her. Perrin smells something very wrong and warns Matt and Rand to prepare themselves as they cross the river. On the south bank, they find the bodies of Changu and Nidau skinned alive, hanging from trees. Inter orders a proper burial for them, as they may have been coerced and not actually dark friends. A little while later, they come upon another village, and Rand goes into one of the houses. He sees a half-eaten dinner on the table. Rand has a vision several times of a family sitting down to eat, and the door flies open. The mother grabs the children and starts to run, the father drops the carving knife he had been using, and the vision starts again. Rand reaches for the void and finally breaks from the vision. When they meet in the town square, Matt says he saw the same thing Rand did, the empty chairs around the dinner table, but no vision of a family. The party meets in the town square, and walks to what used to be a village meeting place, where they find a Fade spread-eagled and bound to the front doors of the building. They are wondering what could manage this. Speechless, they can only leave and follow the trail southward. Chapter 11, Glimmers of the Pattern. After seeing the Fade nailed to the door and the guards hanging from the trees, everyone is a bit shaken. Uno mentions he spotted the white-dressed woman again in the second village, shortly before finding the dead Fade. Rand doesn't think it's possible that it was the same woman. Due to the current morale of the group, Inter calls for an early stop and is extra vigilant in posting guards. Rand receives a package from Inter that he says is from Moraine. Inter also tells Rand that he is second in command of the party, and if Inter dies, Rand must complete the mission. Rand objects to no avail. Rand goes into the forest to open the package and discovers that it is the dragon banner. Matt sees him with the banner and gets even angrier at Rand. Perrin reacts differently and just ponders. Rand gets angry too and exclaims that Moraine is setting him up to be a false dragon despite his best efforts to stop it. Perrin asks Rand whether he can channel, and Rand admits he can. Matt panics and starts rambling about all of them getting killed, but Perrin tells him to shut up. Rand says that Moraine told him that he is the real dragon, but he doesn't believe it. Rand finally gets to explain his earlier words and his friends understand, although Matt is still afraid of him. Perrin advises him to run away but admits that it may not be possible. Rand keeps trying to figure out what Moraine wants him to do so he can do something else, but all he does is confuse himself in the increasing layers of psychology. Rand joins Loyal and Huron on the other side of the hollow, separate from the rest of the men. Loyal is examining a half-buried, weathered stone which he thinks may have been worked in some fashion. The three lay down next to the stone. Rand goes to an uneasy sleep holding the void. Fane reflects on the changes that Balsamon made to him. He is now permanently aware of the location of the three Ta'veren, especially Rand, except the moments when Rand uses his vanishing trick. He followed the three to Shadar Logoth where he was transformed further. He carries the ruby-hilted dagger, and it is now a part of him. He recalls his power struggle with the Fade, feeling weak every morning and losing command before wrestling it back later in the day. The weakness reduced gradually until he was able to take over completely, and nail the Fade to the door in the village. The Fade had wanted to go north to the Blight and Sheol Ghul, not south where they are going now. He has 20 Trollocs under his command along with 12 remaining dark friends. He is annoyed that he let the Trollocs take an entire village captive, slowing him down. He orders the Trollocs to cut all the villagers down and eat what they can, but to leave the rest of the remains in a pile for Rand to find. He threatens to feed the remaining dark friends to the Trollocs should they get hungry again. The dark friends babble how they are important nobles and useful to him. He ignores them completely. He thinks about the horn of Valir which is in a locked chest that he can't open. He is tired of following Rand. This time Rand must do the following. They will meet again on Toman Head. There he will kill Rand and be free of him at last. Chapter 12, Woven in the Pattern. Val Dara Keep is in turmoil after an attempt on the life of the Amerlin seat, Sun Sanche. Lord Agelmar Jagged entreats the Amerlin to wait until he has found the bowman before leaving, but she can wait no further. Amid much fanfare, the Aes Sedai leave Val Dara, accompanied by Shianarian soldiers. They head west towards the River Mora, which is a tributary of the Aranin. The Amerlin sets a grueling march, and the party rides for as long as possible before pitching camp shortly before dusk. Lan comes over one night and speaks with Nynaeve. Nynaeve comes back sobbing but will not discuss it. Egwene and Nynaeve are also visited in their tent by a different Aes Sedai each night. Most give them lessons in channeling the One Power. Varen Mathwin comes first and explains that Egwene is unusual in her eagerness to learn the One Power. Moraine also had the same eagerness. She walks the two through novice exercises to improve their ability to grasp Saidar. Nynaeve refuses to participate until Varen tells her that she could become an accepted with only a little training. Life is much more pleasant as an accepted. Novices must do chores and are expected to obey without question. Accepted are allowed to ask questions and choose their own studies. The exercises focus on serenity and surrendering to the power. They are helpful for Egwene and she slowly improves. Nynaeve, however, only gets progressively more angry until she lashes out and accidentally lights the blankets on fire, which Varen extinguishes. That puts an end to the lesson. Alviren, Alana, and Liandrin all come on subsequent nights. Alviren is strict in her lesson but also patient. Alana asks them many questions about Rand, Mat, and Perrin, which makes Egwene uncomfortable. Liandrin barely teaches at all and focuses on asking about the three boys until Nynaeve tells her to leave. Egwene wishes Moraine was the one teaching them, but Moraine spends all her time speaking to the other Aes Sedai and ignores them. After a while, Egwene begins to have dreams about Rand being in danger, and feels that there might be more to them than just regular nightmares. A man with a mask over his face, and fire in place of his eyes, who was surprised to see her a woman looking down at Rand sleeping in his cloak, and Egwene knew she was evil, a feeling of danger, as if a trap was just beginning to snap shut. When they arrive at the village of Mado, she looks for Moraine to tell her about the dreams. Asking Anya, she learns that Moraine left with Lan days ago and Liandrin and Varen both disappeared on subsequent nights. The Amerlin is enraged that the three left without saying anything. Anya's motherly face makes Egwene feel safe and she tells her about the dreams. Anya considers the possibility that Egwene is a dreamer and promises to give her the proper training if so. Anya directs her to quickly join Nynaeve and the Amerlin on the River Queen, bound for Tar Valon. Chapter 13, From Stone to Stone. Rand wakes up and the hollow they were in is now much different. He sees Loyal and Huron next to him with their horses, but everyone else and their horses are gone. The half-buried stone is now an upright column in the ground. There are now steps leading up to the stone, in 7 colors, one for each Aes Sedai Aja. Loyal examines the stone and says he remembers reading about stones that the Aes Sedai in the Age of Legends used to travel to other worlds. This prompts Rand to think about the power, and his skin prickles. He thinks back to last night when he entered the void while thinking about how to run away, and wonders if he brought them here with the power subconsciously. Huron is worried that he won't be able to see his wife and children again, but hopes Rand will be able to get them back to their proper place. He has confidence in Rand, who he thinks is a lord, to fix what has gone wrong. Rand feels the weight of duty and decides to try to channel to bring them back. He touches the stone and enters the void. Then he pictures the hollow as it had been, with the stone half buried and the rest of the party present. Nothing happens and the void shatters. Rand feels the tamed Ansaden. His stomach lurches from the feel of filth. Huron is now more confident in Rand than before because he can see that Rand is doing something. He tells Rand that he still smells the dark friends although it is fainter. Rand decides to follow the trail to at least recover the horn and dagger if nothing else. Loyal looks at Rand questioningly. He saw that Rand touched the stone trying to use it, and says that the stones can only be used by the one power. What did Rand hope to accomplish? Rand is caught by surprise but says that if the dark friends are here too, then there must be another way to use the stones. Rand will find out how. Chapter 14, Wolf Brother. Inkter and Uno notice that Hurin, Rand and Loyal are gone. They seemingly vanished. Inkter is furious with this belief that 3 men and horses can disappear without a trace and leave no tracks. Matt says that maybe they ran away, but Inkter says Hurin has no reason at all to do that, and he doesn't believe Rand would either. Matt is on the verge of saying more, but to Perrin's relief he stops and walks away. With Hurin gone, Perrin worries that the dark friends are getting away and they will never recover the dagger. Perrin thinks he can talk to the wolves, maybe, and find them. Perrin thought for a while that this ability had to do with the Dark One or the One Power. He understands how Rand felt about being able to channel. Moiraine had told him that it has nothing to do with the power. Talking to the wolves may be the only way to find Rand or the Dark Friends, so he reluctantly reaches out to the wolves. The wolves mistake him for Longtooth, their name for Ilya's Makara, but soon realize who he is and they name him Young Bull. When he attacked the White Cloaks with his axe, he seemed like a raging bull with metal horns to them. They have not seen Rand since he disappeared, but they know that the Trollocs are to the south. Perrin finds Inkter and tells him that the Dark Friends went south. Perrin says the wolves told him, and Inkter is not surprised because he has heard of Elias, a warder who some say could talk to wolves. Perrin agrees when Inkter says not to tell anyone about him speaking to wolves. They will tell the other Sheenarans that Perrin is a sniffer. The other men are not too hard to convince, but Matt scoffs and tells Perrin that he's insane. Perrin says he can smell something bad ahead of them. It is the pile of dead bodies killed by the Trollocs as Fane ordered. Just then, Varen Mathwin rides up to the party and says Moiraine sent her. Varen has been galloping hard after them, passing through the village with the dead Myrdril. She also reveals that she knows Hurin is a sniffer. Inkter says he has a new sniffer in Perrin. Varen remarks that it is very fortuitous that there is a new sniffer just as the old one disappears. She eyes Perrin curiously. Varen accepts Inkter's invitation to ride with them, and demands that Inkter tell her all he knows of Rand. Matt and Perrin know that Varen is after Rand and not the Horn or Dark Friends. Chapter 15, Kinslayer. Rand sees that there are char marks on the ground, seemingly in a straight line. There is no sign of animal life anywhere. No birds, foxes, minnows, or any other creature. They come to a stream and he makes the others wait to see if anything happens to him before he lets them drink. After riding for half the morning, Loyal gets out of the saddle next to a group of trees and sings, touching one of the trees. He then holds in his hand a staff made from the tree, which now has new growth. Hurin continues to follow the trail, but it is as if he is remembering the trail instead of smelling it. There is also no sign of anyone passing through this land. Rand takes the first watch for the night, and Baalzamon appears again. Rand draws his sword, but Baalzamon just laughs. He tries again to turn Rand to the shadow and offers to teach him how to channel, lying that no one else lives can do that except him. If only Rand will serve the Dark Lord. He reveals to Rand that he has dark friends even in the White Tower, and that he knows Rand is hunting for the Horn of Valir. Baalzamon says that Moiraine did not lie when she called him the Dragon Reborn. Rand cannot escape from his fate, he will either serve or die. Rand denies being Luztherin, being the Dragon Reborn. He denies that Baalzamon can touch him. Baalzamon makes Rand's sword glow, and the sword hilt burns its heron mark into the palm of his right hand, fulfilling the prophecy. Once the heron, to set his path. Chapter 16, In the Mirror of Darkness. Rand, Hurin, and Loyal travel through the mirror world. Rand has wrapped his injured hand with a kerchief. In the distance they see a spire and decide to investigate. In the real world it would have been the monument to Arthur Hawkwing's victory over the Trollocs, but in this world the monument indicates a Trolloc victory. Loyal realizes the nature of this world. It is a world that deviated from their own due to different events happening. They have not seen anyone here, and Loyal posits that the Trollocs killed each other after killing all the humans. Huron thinks he spots a woman in the trees to the north, but Rand sees nothing. Further south they come upon a woman who is trying to fend off a bear-like creature with a tree branch. Following the woman's instructions, Rand takes his bow and shoots the creature in the eye to kill it. She tells him it is a Grolm. The woman's extraordinary beauty strikes the men and even Loyal, and they stammer to speak to her. The black-haired woman is wearing white and introduces herself as Selene, a Carrion noblewoman. She says that she went to sleep and then awoke in this weird place. She kneels before Rand in thanks. She asks Rand to get her home, but Rand says they have to find the men they are following first. Before Rand can stop him, Huron blurts out that they are hunting dark friends and Trollocs to recover the Horn of Valir. Rand agrees to let her come with them on their journey, so he can help protect her. Selene talks to Rand as they ride, telling him that he will do great things. Rand thinks she sounds like Moraine and asks if she is Aes Sedai. She denies it, and implies contempt of the Aes Sedai. She notices his injured hand but does not comment on the heron mark. She rubs ointment on it which removes the redness and swelling. Later she talks to Loyal, and Loyal reveals that she told him many things about history and the age of legends. The ways were created from study of these alternative worlds, where time and distance may be different from their world. Rand is skeptical that Selene can know all these things, but Loyal assumes she learned about them in the Royal Library of Carrion. Selene returns to speak with Rand, and Rand tells her about the void. She encourages him to use it all the time. They spot another portal stone further south, and Selene says it is the one she woke up next to. She asks him to go there and use it to take her back home. Rand is afraid to channel again, and decides to find the horn and dagger first. He tells Selene that she must have used the stone to bring herself here, so she can use it again herself. Selene denies knowing anything about using portal stones and grumbles about his stubbornness. Suddenly a pack of Grolm appear behind them. Chapter 17 Choices. Selene says they must kill all of the Grolm, or go elsewhere, and urges Rand to head to the portal stone. Rand is stubborn and decides to fight. Rand embraces the void and looses arrows at the Grolm, managing to kill all 5 of them. He feels the allure of Satan while in the void, the desire to hold it and feel truly alive. Selene looks as though she is not affected by the Grolm's presence. More Grolm appear, and Selene points out that he will run out of arrows. Rand finally allows her to lead them to the portal stone. Selene points out which symbol on the stone is used to return to their world and has Rand channel while touching it. The world flickers many times and they finally get out of the mirror world, and Loyal says they are in Kinslayer's dagger. Rand is tempted to kiss Selene but only tells her to keep the portal stone a secret. Selene tells them they are probably ahead of Fane and the Trollocs, since time or distance can move differently in the mirror world. Selene wants to stay with them a few more days, to see if they can get the horn. Rand reflects that Egwene would never say he was wise, like Selene did. Huron goes to find a camp where they can watch for the horn. They make sure not to sleep next to any portal stones. Chapter 18 To the White Tower. Egwene and Nynaeve are on board the River Queen, going to Tar Valon. Nynaeve is seasick and sits in bed most of the time. From her dreaming, Egwene is worried that Rand is in danger. Egwene has been having dreams about a man in a mask hurting Rand. The Emerlin comes in their room to give them a lesson. Nynaeve makes to leave and says the lessons have been useless. The Emerlin demonstrates the usefulness of the power by wrapping Nynaeve and Egwene in air. The Emerlin mocks Nynaeve, and eventually Nynaeve retaliates by flinging the Emerlin against the wall. Having succeeded in making Nynaeve angry, the Emerlin is satisfied. The Emerlin was told that Nynaeve can channel at her best when her temper is high. The Emerlin shields Nynaeve, which dispels her weave, demonstrating how much more she has left to learn. They go through a difficult lesson and Nynaeve is infuriated afterwards, but Egwene is only excited at her own progress. The ship docks at Tar Valon and the girls can see Dragonmount off to the west. This sight makes Egwene think of Rand. The people at the dock rush to greet the Emerlin, and the Aes Sedai seem to have forgotten about Nynaeve and Egwene. A dockman tells Nynaeve that her horse will be taken to the tower, and they should get a move to get to the White Tower. Egwene marvels at the beauty of the city. Shariam meets Egwene and Nynaeve as they leave the ship, and says she is to show them to their rooms. Nynaeve says she is to be accepted, skipping novice training, and the mistress of novices agrees even though it has never been done before. Nynaeve expresses her concern on how hard novice training will be for Egwene. Shariam reassures her that they won't be too hard on a novice, but that the first few weeks as accepted are very difficult. Chapter 19, Beneath the Dagger. Rand is laying on the ground trying to sleep at night. He thinks about how he has been wanting to leave and take Selene back to Carrion, but every day she convinces him to stay for another day. Rand is thinking that Egwene must be in Tar Valon by now, and she would not be happy with the way he has been thinking about Selene. Rand shifts around and sees Selene search Rand's saddlebags, which should be next to him but are not. When he catches her, she says she needs a new shirt because her dress is dirty. He grabs the bags from her, making sure they were still fastened and the dragon banner within still unseen. He gives her a new shirt even though her dress looks just fine. She asks him to unbutton her dress, but he stammers and refuses. Rand brings up taking her back to Carrion again, but she only talks about the glory Rand will have when he finds the Horn of Valir. He turns around to see that her legs are bare while wearing the shirt, which makes Rand stammer even more. Huron suddenly runs up and stops, thinking that he has interrupted something. Loyal wakes up and Huron says that he saw a campfire. It must be Fane, Rand thinks. Rand wants to just shadow them until Ingtar catches up for a coordinated attack, but Selene is disappointed, saying that Intgar will get the glory of finding the horn. Selene urges him to take Loyal with him to the camp now. Ogier have better night vision than humans, and Loyal can carry the chest with the horn. Rand and Loyal stalk to the camp after Huron shows them where it is. Rand finds the chest that holds the horn, and Mat's dagger lying on top of it next to a sleeping Fane. He reaches out, using the void for calm, and grabs the dagger, putting it behind his belt. Rand motions to Loyal to take the chest, which he does, and Fane wakes up as they move away. Fane howls to Rand in anger, but he can't see Rand or Loyal in the darkness. They get closer to their horses but are soon blocked by Trollocs. Rand wraps himself in the void and starts fighting, dancing sword forms, thinking that it would be better to die than to use Satan, and kills at least 7. Eventually, Loyal persuades him to stop fighting and withdraw. Rand mounts Red and Loyal runs along with his horse, which has the chest in its saddle. When they get back to camp, Selene is wearing her dress again, which is as immaculate as ever. She wants to see the horn, but Rand doesn't know how to open the chest. She is able to open it, and Rand lifts the horn out. Selene reads the words on the horn, Tia mi aven morid in Isain Vaden, and Rand puts it back. He tells them about the dagger, and how he needs it to help Mat. Selene wants Rand to get rid of the dagger, but Rand says he needs it to save Mat. He places the dagger in the chest, hoping it will be enough to shield them from it. Rand wants to take the horn back to Shinar, but Selene says it would be foolish to go back north because the Dark Friends will be looking for them. They must continue on to Carrion, where they will be safe behind the walls. Rand realizes that Ingtar will also eventually arrive in Carrion if he is still following the trail, and agrees. He decides they must leave now because Fane is too close, so they saddle up the horses and leave during the night. Fane makes an example out of the Trolloc who reported to him that Rand was gone. He sends the Trollocs back out to look for Rand. He yells bitterly into the night, saying that Rand and the world will pay for what was done to him. Chapter 20, Side-In. Rand, Huron, Loyal and Selene continue through the night toward Carrion and away from Fane and his Trollocs. Selene wants to see the Horn of Valir again in daylight, but Rand stops her. Although he is tempted himself, he wants to keep the ruby-hilted dagger and their shielded away from them. Rand keeps thinking that Selene seems like Aes Sedai, but she fervently denies it. They come upon a village which they want to visit to sleep in a proper bed, but Selene wants to stay away, preferring to stay away from dirty men who would want the horn for themselves if they discover it. Nearby, Rand can see what looks like an enormous statue with a hand holding a sphere coming out of the ground. It is the male Chodan Kal. He is instinctively drawn to it, and goes to the site, where men are digging the statue out of the ground. Rand recalls Belle Doman mentioning a giant hand holding a sphere sticking out of a hill on the island of Treemocking. Celine tries to get him to move away from it, but Rand won't leave. Rand suddenly realizes that he is within the void and feels Satan flowing through him as the sphere pulses with energy. Celine gets desperate and agrees to go to the village with him. Everyone tells Rand to come away from the statue, but Rand finds that he cannot let go of Satan. To the others he appears in a trance. To himself, Rand feels glorious, like he could hold more Satan than ever. Finally he breaks free, but the guards at the bottom of the excavation have noticed them. They come to the 9 Rings Inn in the village of Tremonchin. The inn is named after one of Rand's favorite adventure stories. Celine says she was very frightened at the statue, and that Rand could have killed himself. Celine asks Rand take the horn and ride on with her, and she will stay with him forever. Rand only says that the horn is not his. She turns her back on him and refuses to speak. Chapter 21: The 9 Rings. The group enters the inn where Rand sees a handful of soldiers playing dice, and their captain at another table. The innkeeper, Magdalene Madwin, asks if Rand is hunting for the Horn of Valir. Rand he says no, avoiding looking at Loyal who is carrying the chest. They eat their dinner, and Madwin asks if Huron will play the flute. Rand says it is his flute, and obliges with some songs to stay in practice, expecting to need to work as a gleeman in the future. Aldrin Caldwin, the captain, comes over to see if he can find any holes in Rand's story. Having visited the royal palace in Camelin, Rand is able to pass as an Andorran noble. When Caldwin begins to question Celine, a maid drops a lamp and Celine leaves to go to bed, claiming sickness. Huron is seen by everyone in the inn as a servant, and no one talks to him. Rand asks about the statue he saw with a huge hand and a crystal sphere. Caldwin tells him it is from the Age of Legends and says that he has a crew working on uncovering the statue so it can be taken to the capital. His guards watching the workmen need rotating on a regular basis, and there will be another group heading back to the capital tomorrow. He asks for them to ride with Rand and assumes Rand will agree. When they get to their rooms, Rand asks what that was all about, the officer acting suspicious and all. Huron explains that it is the great game, Days Daymar. Carrion are plotting all the time and assume everyone else is plotting too. In the morning, the innkeeper has a note for Rand written by Celine, sealed with a crescent moon and stars. It says that she left because there are too many people and she doesn't like Caldwin. She will be waiting in Carrion and will never be too far away from Rand. Caldwin is furious with his men that Celine left during the night without any of them noticing. Rand accepts the escort of 50 soldiers and they proceed to the city of Carrion. Chapter 22: Watchers. Moraine sits surrounded by books and scrolls, frustrated that nothing is happening as she expects. She and Lan are in a town called Tiffin's Well, in Arafel, where Adelias and Vandine live. The 2 aged Aes Sedai are sisters who retired from the White Tower a long time ago, intending to write the history of the world from before the breaking to present times. The villagers do not realize they are Aes Sedai and think they are only old village healers. Moraine is here because the sisters have the greatest collection of scrolls and books outside of the tower library. Returning to the tower now would cause Moraine lots of problems, so this is the next best thing. Moraine cannot find what she is looking for, which causes her to reminisce. She talks to Lan about their first meeting despite having said that she would never speak of it again. She asks Lan if he has ever regretted being bonded, but he says no. She tells Lan that in the event of her death, his warder bond will be passed to Morel, a green sister. She will not allow him to waste his life avenging her or going back to pointlessly killing Trollocs in the Blight until he dies. Moraine thinks her death is increasingly likely as events approach Tarmon Gaidon. Moraine says that Morel will only keep his bond until she finds someone more suitable. He is not happy about this, saying he won't be passed around like a lapdog. Moraine won't tell Lan who she intends to end up with his bond, but indicates it may be a newly raised Aes Sedai who will need guidance from a wise warder. Moraine asks again if Lan regrets his bonding, given that she can give him to whomever she wishes. Lan asks if the entire thing is a test after all. Moraine presses Lan and asks him about why he helped Rand prepare for the meeting with the Amerlin. Lan says that he helped Rand stand up to the Amerlin to make a strong first impression, so that he would survive being manipulated by Aes Sedai. He then backtracks his words, saying that he still believes Moraine is doing the right thing, then blames it on ta'veren. Moraine sends Lan out of the room, saying she needs to think. Moraine knows Lan is in love with Nynaeve and thinks he helped Rand because of those loyalties. She expects Lan to ask her to release him from the bond sooner or later. Vandine comes in with tea and asks if Moraine found what she was looking for. She hasn't, and Vandine looks at the documents Moraine has around her. Moraine is researching the prophecies of the dragon, including the original and Old Tongue, the Horn of Valir, the Watchers over the Waves, Shadar Logoth and the Forsaken, among others. Vandine remembers that Moraine asked for privacy in her research and turns to leave. But Moraine decides to ask her questions, as even though she is Green Aja, she has learned much of history due to spending time with her sister, a Brown. Vandine says that there is no direct link between the dragon and the Horn of Valir in the prophecies. The horn must be found before Tarmon Gaidon, but that is all. They discuss the intricacies of translating the prophecies, as Vandine believes that one passage indicates that the dragon reborn will appear somewhere above Tomon Head. She mentions that Mordath lives in Shadar Logoth, waiting for a soul to steal. Moraine then asks about Lanfear. Vandine only knows that Lanfear was linked with Lews Therin, but Moraine knows that also. Vandine then asks if Moraine knows about the dragon being reborn, but Moraine only says that she knows as much as the Amerlin does. Moraine goes out to the garden, finding no answers inside. A Dragker is waiting for her. The Dragker hums to her seductively, stopping her from channeling. Just as it is about to kill her, Lan and Vandine's warder Jaime kill it. Adelias comes over and is relieved to see that Moraine is unharmed, then sees to Jaime. Adelias cannot believe that Shadow Spawn managed to get so close without any of them detecting it, but Moraine tells her it must have been warded. Adelias says only a sister could do that, before realizing what Moraine is implying. The Black Aja must have summoned and warded the Dragker. Moraine must depart before she endangers the two sisters further. She leaves letters with Vandine to send to the tower as Adelias disposes of the body before any villagers can see it. Chapter 23, The Testing. Nynaeve is ready for testing. Shuriam, the mistress of novices, takes her to the Silver Arches Terngriel, and the ceremony begins. She has to pass through the arches 3 times to face her fears, once for the past, once for the present, and once for the future. She is given a chance to refuse the testing and become a novice, but she wants to become accepted so that she can learn at her own pace and ask questions as she desires. Once she starts the testing, she must finish. If she refuses to continue, she will be expelled from the tower without exception. She goes through the first archway, and finds herself in a maze with no memory of her past. She only remembers an echo of Shuriam's voice, reminding her that the way out will come but once. After wandering through the maze for a while, she encounters Aegoner. She runs and he taunts her as he chases. Her fear changes to anger, and she channels a fireball which strikes him in the chest. They begin a battle and Nynaeve is winning and close to finishing him off, but the exit arch appears. Frustrated, she abandons the battle and leaves. Shuriam tells her that she shouldn't have been able to channel in the arches and warns her not to do it again, as others who have done so have been burned out. She goes through the second archway and sees Emond's field in shambles. She talks to the Marin Alvir, who says Senbuy is mayor, and that Bran is dead. There is a new wisdom, Melina Aylar from Watch Hill, who bullies people into doing things and murders those who stand against her. Nynaeve and Marin plan to get the women's circle to stand against her, but the arch appears and Nynaeve begins to remember that it is not real. Marin screams for her help, but Nynaeve turns and leaves through the arch. Back outside, Nynaeve is shaken and Shuriam explains that the test presents the novice with some compelling reason to stay. She must overcome this and leave to prove that she wishes to become Aes Sedai more than anything else. Shuriam asks a final time if Nynaeve wishes to continue, knowing that the hardest test is to come. Nynaeve steels herself and runs through the third arch. Nynaeve finds herself in a beautiful meadow and a restored Malkyr. Lan is there, and they kiss, but she doesn't want it. Lan tells her she is the queen of the Malkyri, and they have children. Nynaeve desperately wants to get out of the dream, but begins to get caught up as if it was real. She misses the arch, but then she remembers everything: Egwene alone in the tower, Rand likely to go mad, Mat and Perrin in trouble, and all of it is Moraine's fault. She imagines blackthorns piercing her flesh, which allows her to embrace Sadar. Despite Shiriam's warning, she channels to force the arch to reappear and flees from land, begging her to stay. Nynaeve comes out and screams that she hates all Aes Sedai. Shiriam states that this is a common sentiment. Then Shiriam notices her palms each have one blackthorn in them. When they are removed, they leave a scar in the front and back of each hand. This confuses Shiriam greatly, but they can only finish the ceremony. Suin and other Aes Sedai are in the chamber now to confirm her as accepted. Chapter 24: New Friends and Old Enemies. Egwene is finally entered into the novice book and is shown to her room by an accepted named Pedra. Upon entering her room, she meets Elaine, a woman about her own age who has an air of dignity and self-possession about her. Elaine explains that new novices are assigned ones who have been in the White Tower a while, to help them find their way. They both share a dislike for washing dishes and other chores, and Elaine explains that with so many rules it is impossible not to break some eventually. Egwene is amazed to learn that Elaine grew up with Aes Sedai. Egwene proceeds to show off her abilities with the One Power by making a small glowing ball appear above her hand, and explains that she has already had a few lessons. Not to be shown up, Elaine copies the ball, even if it flickers a little. Egwene is surprised to see a glow appear around Elaine and loses the source. This is the first time either girl has seen the aura around any channeless. Because Egwene is from Emond's Field, Elaine asks her if she knows a boy named Rand al'Thor. At this point, Egwene remembers Rand's tale about falling into a garden and meeting the daughter heir of Ander. Elaine confirms who she is but insists that Shiriam Sedai would be angry if that became common knowledge. Elaine explains more about the White Tower and how there are so few novices, and accepted today only 40 novices, of which only 7 or 8 will become accepted. Elaine shares Shiriam Sedai's theory that the ability to channel is being culled out of humankind due to the Red Ajah's aggressive gentling of any man who can channel. Talk returns to Rand and how Elaine's mother's Aes Sedai advisor, Elida, was very interested in Rand. Elaine pulls Egwene out of the room and tells her of 2 other girls in the tower who knew Rand. One is a novice named Else Grinwell who ran off to the tower after Rand and Mat visited her family's farm. While walking down the hallways, a tall, handsome man with a sadness to his eyes appears in front of them. He is accompanied by an accepted who tells him he should not be in the halls and if he needs air to go to the gardens. The man relents and is led away. Elaine explains that he is the false dragon Loghain, and even though he is gentled, he still scares her. Elaine leads Egwene on so she can meet Min. Egwene vaguely recalls the name, and when she sees Min on a bridge in the garden, she remembers why. She asks why Min is in Tar Valon, and Min answers that she was given the choice of coming of her own free will, or coming tied in a sack. Min was brought so the Aes Sedai can study her. Min sees images and auras around people and can sometimes understand their meaning. It is a talent that does not use the One Power. Around Elaine she saw that she would be a queen, and the image held the rose crown of Ander. She also saw that Elaine will have to share her husband with 2 other women. Around Egwene she sees a white flame and other things she can't interpret. She also saw a severed hand aura around Elaine but does not know the meaning. Galad and Gawain approach the girls and Egwene is mesmerized by the beauty of Galad. He asks to see Egwene again and she agrees. Content with her answer, he turns around and leaves. Gawain also asks about Rand, if he really was from Emond's Field. He recounts how Elida is interested in him. All 3 girls declare they are to be friends and fall into giggles, hugging on the bridge. Gawain leaves a warning about Elida's intentions toward Rand. As if naming the Dark One, Elida enters the garden, coming toward the group. Gawain takes the opportunity to make his leave. Elida wastes no time putting Elaine in her place. Back home she was the daughter heir, but here she is just another novice. Just then the bell sounds high, and she dismisses the 2 novices in order to interrogate Min. As Min leaves the bridge, she looks over her shoulder to make sure Elida is not there, but the Red Sister is nowhere to be seen. Min wonders how the Red knew that Moraine had brought her to Tar Valon. As far as she knew only herself, Moraine, and Sheriam knew. Elida asked many questions about Rand, and Min tried very hard to keep a straight face and steady eye when she lied and said she had never heard of him. As Min stomps off to find a place to cool off, she says aloud that wherever Moraine is, she needs to come to Tar Valon so Min can leave. Min thinks about Rand, who she knows very little about. She doesn't want to fall in love with him. Chapter 25 Carrion. Rand, Hurin, Loyal, and the soldiers led by Elricane Tavlin arrive at the city of Carrion. They pass through Fort Gate, the city around the city, where refugees from the farms near the spine of the world have come since the Ale War. The lands near the spine are abandoned and no longer productive. Carrion has to import grain from Ander and Tear to make up the shortfall. The king mollifies the refugees by paying for entertainment on a daily basis, which disgusts Loyal. A procession of puppets pass by them, including fake Trollocs. Hurin says the Illuminators have a guild in this town as they see some fireworks. The topless towers are being repaired, but the Ogier are no longer assisting. They come to the city gates between Ford Gate and Carrion proper. The group gives their names and are told to return the next day with the name of their inn. Rand inquires after Celine, but receives no response. Hurin leads them to the defender of the Dragon Wall. The innkeeper is called Quail. The people here seem to think he is Ale too. Carrion makes him uncomfortable and he wants to leave, but needs to stay so Inkter can find them, and Celine said she would be here. They are shown to their rooms and Rand wants to go back to Forgate where he feels more comfortable, but no one wants to come with him. Loyal worries he will run into other Ogier who may know he does not have permission to be outside. Hurin dislikes the smell of violence that permeates the Forgate. In the common room, Rand gets invitations for parties from several houses. He does not want to get involved in Days Daymar, so he throws them into the fire. This startles Hurin and Hurin advises him not to do it again, as it is a grave insult to those houses. Rand goes outside and sees all the festivities in the Forgate. There is someone claiming to have an Aes Sedai performing tricks. Then he hears Tom Merrilin. Tom says that his leg was injured by the Fade, but he survived because the Fade ran off after Mat and Rand at first opportunity. Tom is surprised to learn that Moraine was confident that he was still alive, and assumes she was after Mat or Perrin because she is no longer with Rand. Tom seems disappointed that Moraine is not around. Tom tells Rand to bring his instruments to the bunch of grapes where he is staying. Chapter 26 Discord. Rand gets back to the defender of the Dragon Wall, and convinces Loyal to come with him to see Tom. They go to the bunch of grapes and the innkeeper sends them up to his room. Dina is waiting there, practicing her juggling. She tells Rand that she will become the first woman gleeman. Tom enters and Dina and he kiss, making Rand uncomfortable. He complains about a group of players that pretend to be different heroes from legend. She introduces Rand and Loyal and Tom sends her to collect her knives. Tom tells Rand that he had word about him from Basil Gill. Rand offers Tom a part in a big adventure and tells him that they have the Horn of Valir. Tom doesn't believe him. When he tells him Moraine also says it is the Horn of Valir, he stops laughing. He tells him that Trollocs and Myrtle are after them and tells them about their plans for the horn. Tom doesn't want any of the glory. Rand asks Loyal to leave he and Tom alone. When he is gone, he asks Tom about the Carryathon cycle. Tom quotes some of the prophecies and is suspicious about Rand. Rand says that no Aes Sedai are going to use him, and that Moraine is far away. After prompting, Tom tells Rand about Owen and how the Aes Sedai who gentled him gave him no chance. Rand tries to convince Tom to come with them once again, but Tom refuses. He is happy enough with life and with Dina. He doesn't want to be tangled up in events, and won't even let Rand tell him what inn he is staying in. Tom is tempted to follow Rand with the Horn of Valir, but still decides against it. The innkeeper, Zara, accuses him of getting himself involved in the great game again. Tom says that Rand is only a shepherd from the Two Rivers, but she doesn't believe him, thinking that he must be an Outlander lord instead. She warns him that the game has become more dangerous, and that he shouldn't be playing at so many lords' manors. She urges him to settle down and to marry Dina. Tom thinks it would be unfair to burden the girl with an old husband. He concludes that Rand must not be a channeler after all, or the Aes Sedai would not have let him go ungentled. Chapter 27: The Shadow in the Night. Rand and Loyal leave the bunch of grapes to return to the city, Loyal lamenting Dina's win at dice. Rand sees one of those Trolloc puppets approaching, accompanied by 5 puppeteers. He thinks they can wait for Inkter no longer, and is planning to leave as soon as possible. Before he realizes what is happening, the Trolloc leaps for him, and he unsheathes his sword and strikes. It is a real Trolloc. The accompanying men, presumably dark friends, turn and run. Another Trolloc grabs Rand but Loyal fights it. The Trolloc and Loyal grapple with each other in the street so Rand cannot attack with his sword, lest he accidentally hit Loyal. The Trolloc is trying to draw its sword to kill Loyal, so Rand tries to channel to save his friend, but Satan won't come. He feels only the taint, not the power. Fortunately, Loyal breaks free and throws the Trolloc against a building, killing it. Loyal is a bit shaken as he had never killed anything before. They see Trollocs in every direction pretending to be puppets. Fane must have sent them, but they must want to stay hidden as they are disguised. Rand and Loyal will be safe if they can get into the populated streets, but slowly they are corralled to the eastern end of town where all the houses have shuttered windows. They end up outside a walled area with several buildings which Loyal identifies as the Illuminators' chapter house. Suddenly, Celine appears. Rand tries to get her to leave so she doesn't get hurt. She calmly asks him what trouble he is in and tells him that the man who carries the Horn of Valir should not be troubled by mere Trollocs. They try to sneak into the Illuminators' chapter house. Celine wants him to seek the Oneness to calm himself. Celine finds a door along the wall, and as they are about to enter, Loyal says Illuminators kill intruders. Rand thinks it must be better to deal with humans who can be reasoned with than Trollocs, so they go inside and move along an alleyway between 2 buildings until they come to an open area. They hear the Illuminators, Aludra and Thomas, arguing about the preparations for tonight's firework display. Then Rand notices all the fireworks piled up in the clearing, which unnerves him. They slowly move between the fireworks, trying to remain unseen and unheard. Loyal accidentally sets off one of the firework tubes, which causes Rand to knock Celine over to try to protect her body. The commotion attracts the Illuminators and Aludra starts berating Thomas for it. Then Loyal finds Trollocs behind them. They are trapped between the Trollocs and Illuminators. Celine still talks about Rand's greatness, and how proud she will be of him after he gets them out of here. Rand tries to come up with a plan to escape without channeling and shoots a firework at a Trolloc, and there is an explosion and one of the buildings is on fire. The Trollocs are nowhere to be seen. As the Illuminators scramble out of a nearby building to investigate, Loyal says Celine went the other way and they cannot find her now. The burning building illuminates the entire area so they can only run before they are caught. They return to the inn where the innkeeper gives Rand a sealed parchment left by an old woman. The note, which must be from Celine, calls Rand dangerous and unpredictable, yet it tells him to think of the horn, glory, and her. Rand can only sink into a chair and hope that Inkter arrives soon. Chapter 28: A New Thread in the Pattern. Perrin, Mat, Inkter and the Shinarian soldiers continue after Fane and the Horn of Valir. Mat seems paler than he once was, likely due to his separation from the stolen dagger. Healing by Varen seems to have no effect. Perrin notes that Varen is focused on Rand and assumes that she knows his secrets somehow. Varen wants them to move faster than even Inkter. Inkter desperately wants the horn and keeps asking Perrin to relate the events the wolves saw even though Perrin has explained it countless times. The wolves saw Shadowkiller attack the Dark Friend camp, and now the Dark Friends are following Shadowkiller. The wolves are in awe of Shadowkiller. Inkter thinks Shadowkiller might be Shadowspawn, but Perrin assures him that it is not a fade. Uno spots an Ailman in the rocks, who then comes out to the path to meet them. The Ailman gives his name Urian. Mat says the Ailman looks like Rand. Inkter talks to the Ailman and wants to know if he's seen the Trollocs they follow, but he hasn't. When Urian identifies Varen as a wise one, she identifies herself as Aes Sedai and asks how they choose girls to become wise ones. The Aels send men who are to be clan chiefs and women who are to be wise ones to a place called Ridian. That is all he can say. Urien thinks Varen will kill him when he cannot give her a full answer. The Ael have a prophecy that says that the Ael failed the Aes Sedai once, and should they do so again, the Aes Sedai would slay them. Urien says he searches for he who comes with the dawn. There are signs and portents to know he has returned. Urien says, "He will be of our blood, but not live among us," and draws the symbol of Aes Sedai in the dirt. Urien says, "Under this sign he will conquer." When Varen says she cannot help him, he departs. Mat asks Perrin whether he thinks the Ael was talking about Rand, who many think is Ael. Perrin can only shrug. Varen muses over what Urien said. Ingter has the soldiers remove their armor and they continue on to Carrion. Chapter 29, Shan. In a village there are many prisoners and also many that have been hanged, including children. Bornhold questions one of his men and it becomes clear that the villagers were hung by disguised questioners. The Lord Captain does not like that the children's questioners have been so violent, and says to tell the remaining villagers this will not happen again, and goes into the inn. Bornhold is seeking information on the invaders from Toman Head, but what he hears is not credible. A messenger arrives with a message from Jachim Carradine telling him to stay away from Toman Head and focus on rooting out the Dark Friends on Almouth Plain. Bayer wants to follow the instructions, but Bornhold dismisses them as ridiculous, as they have seen no Dark Friends on the plain. Certainly not the children who were hanged. Bornhold decides they are going to Toman Head to confront the invaders who are the true Dark Friends. He questions one of the local soldiers who has been captured regarding the invaders. Doman's ship, the Spray, is being chased by a Shan vessel, and Doman attempts to get too close to shore for the larger ship to pursue him. He recalls learning about the Shan as he traded with villages on Toman Head. When the villages tried to defend themselves against the invaders, lightning from the sky devastated them. The invading soldiers also attacked with monsters and quickly subdued all resistance. After each village was conquered, the Shan would force the populace to reswear forsaken oaths, without explaining how the oaths had been forsaken. They also examined each woman, and some would be taken to the ships never to be seen again, often the guides and healers. They would also replace the mayor and village council, and anyone protesting any of that would often be killed. Yet after having done all that, the Shan typically left and never returned. Falm was the only town they stayed in to occupy. After hearing all those stories of these Shan, Doman wants to avoid them if at all possible. Sudden explosions in the water force him to reconsider, and he surrenders. The leader of the boarding crew wears a helmet that looks like an insect, but when the helmet is removed, Doman is surprised to see a woman. She asks if there are women among his crew or passengers. No, he says, wondering what they want with them. 2 women board. One of them has a collar, the other has a bracelet with a chain connecting the two. The captain says her name is Aegianin. She wants Doman to swear fealty again. He thinks the one on the collar end of the leash is Aes Sedai and says so. Aegianin slaps him, saying, "We do not use that name, there are only the leash ones." He says he does not mean disrespect and hears her call them domain. Aegianin says she will claim these lands again, and then he will know all their ways. She orders Doman to sail to Falm, where his ship will be inspected, and if he is confirmed to be a peaceful trader as claimed, he will be let go. Aegianin places one man on Doman's ship, Kaban. Doman is able to get Kaban to answer a few questions, although when he asks about the domain, Kaban threatens him with a sword. The closer the 2 ships came to Falm, the more Shan ships he sees. He counts over 200. Doman sees the watch towers on the shore. The watchers over the waves they are called. A cage hangs over the watch towers with a man sitting inside. Doman asks about it, and Kaban says he is the first watcher, not the original, since a new one is chosen each time the old one dies. When he asks why he is in the cage again, she says, "He watched for the wrong thing, and forgot when he should have been remembering." Aegianin and her soldiers along with the domain searched Doman's ship once the crew was on the dock. Then Doman sees a 3-eyed monstrous-looking thing on the dock being led by someone in one of those strange helmets. When Aegianin and her soldiers come onto the dock from searching his ship, she has something in her hands. She leads Doman through the town with her soldiers. Doman can see that the people of Fam are very afraid of the Shan Chan and their strange creatures. Aegianin takes him to see High Lord Turek. Doman realizes Aegianin took the seal from his ship. She gives it to Turek and is dismissed. Turek questions Doman about it, and he says that he doesn't know what it is. Doman follows Turek into another room where he has a cabinet with another seal, among other things. He says only the Empress has a bigger collection of Quendeler. Doman is a collector of old things, so the Lord wants to talk to him. Someone brings Turek a cup with black liquid cough. Turek wants to know how he came about the seal, and Doman decides to lie all about it until the Lord is satisfied and lets him go. Chapter 30, Days Daymar. No one has heard the truth of what happened at the Illuminators Guild a few nights ago. Rand knows what happened though, and thinking about them makes him think of Selene. Huron is becoming increasingly Carrion in his subservience, flustering Rand, who is not actually a lord. There is a knock at the door which opens to reveal the innkeeper with more invitations. Rand plans to burn them like the others, but Huron notices that they are from the two most powerful nobles in Carrion, Lord Barthanes and the king, Galdrian Riotin. Huron tells Rand that he must not burn these, because the other nobles he had previously insulted were of lesser houses. They assumed that he is allied with more powerful nobles and therefore waited to see what would happen. But should he burn these as well, they will realize he is really allied to no one, and will no doubt act to repay his earlier insults. Yet Rand cannot accept one or even both invitations without the Carrionin assuming he is in some plot against them. Rand decides to let everyone see him in the common room with them, unopened and apparently pondering over them. This is a temporary delaying tactic though, and will only work for a few days. They must get out of the city soon. Rand leaves the inn with Loyal, leaving Huron to stand guard over the horn. Loyal lists the various ways to get out of the city safely without help from Inkter, but concludes none of them would work. They go to the guardhouse and again they are told that no one named Inkter or Selene has passed through. He asks about Culdovwin, whom Rand saw in the guardhouse, but the guard claims to not have seen him either. Rand is immeasurably frustrated at the Carrionin and Days Daymar and having no control over events. He wants to blame Moraine, who started it all, but admits it's not really her fault that he started pretending to be a lord, even if he only did it because there was always a compelling reason to do so. They are walking back when Loyal notices a fire up ahead, and they see that it is their inn. Running inside, they see people with buckets trying to put out the fire. It appears to have started in their rooms. Rand and Loyal go up the stairs and crawl to their rooms. The chest is gone and Huron quickly falls unconscious. Loyal is worried about his books, but realizes he'll have to leave them so that he can save Huron. Rand cannot carry Huron while crawling to avoid the smoke. Rand looks back at the dragon banner, and remembers Moraine saying that his life may depend on it. He recovers it even though he would rather let it burn. Outside, a reader is tending to Huron but admits she cannot really do anything for him. Rand turns around and sees Matt, Perrin, and Inkter. Rand sits down in the street and laughs bitterly. Chapter 31, On the Scent. Varen heals Rand and Huron, and Matt and Perrin poke fun at Rand for being a lord again. Then Rand has to tell them he lost the dagger and the horn. Matt says Perrin is a sniffer like Huron. The local reader realizes Varen is Aes Sedai, to the astonishment of the crowd. Rand says they should go somewhere else for conversation, and Varen decides on the Great Tree Inn. Huron confirms that he can follow the trail of the people who took the chest. Rand tells him to rest a while before doing so, since the Dark Friends probably cannot open the chest. He gets looks from everyone else which causes him to apologize. With the return of Inkter, he is no longer in command. Inkter says that Rand is a fine leader. They arrive at the great tree where the innkeeper, Tidra, clearly knows Varen is Aes Sedai, although she does not say so. Rand has a bath in his room, transferring things from his dirty coat to the clean one. He finds Selene's letters and after considering, decides to burn them. If he could marry anyone it would be Egwene, but she wants to be Aes Sedai, and she is doomed to go mad anyway. He goes down to the private dining room where the others are waiting. When Rand enters the room, Perrin has a sudden memory of the wolves. He thinks Rand is the shadow killer the wolves talked about. Huron has left to track the Dark Friends and will return so they can follow the trail tomorrow. Inkter asks Rand if he wishes to go after them tonight. Rand says he was not trying to take over, and that they can decide that in the morning. Perrin realizes Rand is changing, becoming more confident. Varen wants to know how they got to Carrion ahead of them. Everyone turned to stare at Rand, all wanting the answer. Perrin thinks about how the wolves are amazed by him. Rand tells them about portal stones and how they got there, and Celine. Varen says the name of the stones is not widely known. She would like to meet this Celine. Their food comes, and Perrin finds himself thinking the lamb is too well done. He is not comfortable with this thought. Huron returns to the room, saying he found the Dark Friends at the Lord Barthanes' manor. Inkter is shocked that Barthanes is a Dark Friend, but Varen is not. Huron suggests sneaking in with 2 people, but Mat suggests telling the king that Barthanes is a Dark Friend. Varen agrees that the king would help them, but also says that the king would take the horn and use it to promote his own greatness. They cannot let anyone else get it. Varen says that as an Aes Sedai she can get them into the manor. Huron points out that Rand happens to have an invitation from Barthanes as well as the king. Varen is pleased that the wheel has provided a solution for them. Rand says they will know he is an imposter if he tries to go to their parties. Varen points out that the Carrionin will assume any mistakes he makes will be due to Daes Daemar, and all he needs to do is to carry on an arrogant manner. Rand finally agrees, and Inkter agrees to have his men outside the manor in case Fane tries to leave with the chest. Varen asks about Barthanes' note which mentions one of the king's projects. Rand realizes it must be the huge statue that they were digging up. Varen says that it is a male Essangriel, and together with its female twin it could strong enough to break the world again. This shocks everyone, but Varen says not to worry as no Aes Sedai would assist a male channeler in doing so, and very few are strong enough to use the female Essangriel safely in any case. Varen looks at Rand as she is saying this, and Rand is deep in thought. Perrin knows Rand has a lot to learn and hopes he won't be used by the Aes Sedai. Chapter 32, Dangerous Words. Uno and 10 Shinarans escort Rand's party to Lord Barthanes' manor house and then join the other escorts. Rand, Varen, Inkter, Loyal are the main party with Huron and Mat along as servants, which greatly disgruntles Mat. Huron and Mat will see if they can find the Dark Friends, Trollocs, the Horn, or the Dagger. Barthanes comes to greet the group after they are announced. The group splits up and they mingle with the crowd except for Rand, who wishes to avoid talking to the nobles. Loyal tells Rand that he feels a waygate nearby, which means the new manor is sitting on the site of a former Ogier grove. Loyal then follows Varen's instructions and leaves to speak to the nobles. There are many entertainers including acrobats, jugglers, glee men and instrumental groups. Barthanes comes up to Rand and probes with questions on many subjects. Rand answers as best he can or as Varen advised. Barthanes seems to think he may be a son of Queen Morgase, perhaps trained by warders. In the end, Barthanes is convinced that every single response by Rand is part of Daes Daemar. Rand enters a room where Tom Marilyn is the entertainer. Tom sees him but clearly is not interested in greeting him, so Rand turns to leave. But then he is accosted by Elaine Culiandred, who blocks his exit along with Belivar Osielin and Breen Taberwin. They corner him and invite him to their manors. He finally uses Tom as an excuse to get away. Tom notes that he is entangled with Aes Sedai again, and he tells Tom that Varen is helping recover the horn which was stolen by Dark Friends, including Barthanes. Huron approaches with a story that Mat has hurt himself, which allows Rand to get out of the room. Tom gives Rand a final caution about mixing with Aes Sedai. Chapter 33, A Message from the Dark. Huron brings Rand to the garden where Mat and Loyal wait. Loyal shows Rand where they found a walled enclosure. The estate used to be a Ogier grove and the waygate is inside the walls. Rand sends Mat to see Varen and Inkter to let them know the Horn of Valir has left via the ways. Mat grumbles about being a servant and mentions Rand going mad, and Rand is worried that Mat is going to let slip that he can channel. They climb over the wall but no one is there. Huron is worried about traveling the ways since he has heard you come out mad if you come out at all. Rand opens the gate so he can show Huron that he can follow the trail in the ways. Loyal sees Mackinshin inside the gate, and Rand drops the Avendezra leaf that is the key to the gate. The Black Wind appears to be trying to get out of the gate, but the portal barrier stops it. Rand can hear what the voices inside are saying and embraces the void, channeling the power instinctively to hurl fire at the Black Wind. Rand holds off the Black Wind with the power until Loyal finally closes the gate. Huron thinks the fire was part of the Black Wind. Rand says they cannot use that to catch up to Fane, and Huron asks to leave. They decide to ask Varen to find a way to follow the horn. When they go back inside the manor house, everyone seems curious as to what Rand and Loyal were doing. Bart Haynes approaches and asks if they will stay longer, but Varen refuses. Bart Haynes detains Rand to give him a message from Fane. "I will wait on Toman Head for you. If you do not meet me, I will harm those of your blood." Bart Haynes also has questions for Rand which don't receive answers. Bart Haynes appears shocked at the information he has given, which may be a Ta'Veren effect. Then everyone goes outside, and Rand tells them of the message from Fane. They return to the great tree where Perrin is waiting so they can decide what to do. Inkter believes the message about Toman Head must be a trick, but Rand tells them they can do what they want, but he is going to Toman Head. Loyal, then Matt and Perrin agree to go also. Varen indicates that writings made in the dungeon when the horn was stolen indicate a connection to Toman Head. Varen says Stedding Tsofu has a way gate and they will go there, and follow using the ways. Rand asks Varen why Matt looks worse, and Varen says he is wasting away and may only have weeks left unless he gets back the dagger. Varen asks Rand whether he has accepted his role in the pattern yet, but Rand says that he will only recover the horn and the dagger, and that is all. Chapter 34. The Wheel Weaves. Tom is on his way back to his room in the bunch of grapes early in the morning after the night's festivities. The nobles at Lord Barthane's party questioned him about Rand after Rand talked with him. Tom went to the great tree intending to speak with Rand, but found that Rand and his party had already left. He returns to find Dina on the bed, dead with her throat cut. He hears the wardrobe door opening and spins, throwing his knives. One attacker is immediately killed and the other is wounded. Tom questions the attacker who is still alive, and he tells that Tom he is getting information on Rand for Lord Barthanes. Tom does not believe that he works for Barthanes, since Barthanes would not have let Tom leave the manor in that case. The man babbles desperately, telling Tom that he saw a lady while investigating Rand. Tom kills the man, telling him that they should have left Dina alone. The innkeeper Zara comes in. She sees the dead men and tells him that Lord Barthanes was killed after the party, torn to pieces by someone or something. Given his presence at the party coupled with the bodies, he will surely be blamed if he doesn't leave Carrion immediately. She tells him she will take care of the bodies, and he gives her the money from the nobles at the party, to pay for bribes if necessary. Moving closer to the bodies, Zara tells him that the men really worked for King Galdrian. Tom tells her that he has someone he has to kill before he leaves. They see the city granaries starting to burn outside. Zara tells him to think of Dina and not to get himself killed. Tom departs with the air of a man on a mission. Fane approaches Falme after questioning locals about the Shan Chan. He finds that much of what he dismissed as fables is actually true. He arrives at the house and headquarters of High Lord Turek. He tells the officer in the street that he has something of interest to their High Lord. The soldiers bring Fane to the Turek along with the chest containing the Horn of Valir and the ruby-hilted dagger. To Fane's surprise, Turek is able to open the chest. Fane identifies the horn, but Turek recognizes it as well. They move to Turek's trophy room, where the horn is set up as a prominent display. Fane tries to take the dagger which he claims is his, and Turek's servant stops him, saying a hand that steals from High Lord Turek is cut off. Turek questions Fane's claim to ownership since the dagger was in a chest he couldn't open. Turek tells him that he may have the dagger if he proves himself sufficiently interesting. Turek questions why Fane would give him the horn. Fane tells him to sound the horn and break the White Tower with it. Fane forces an obsequious manner and spins a tale of his ancestors serving Arthur Hawkwing and hating Hawkwing's death at the hands of the Aes Sedai. His family has always awaited the return of the armies of Hawkwing from across the Aerith Ocean, and the horn was passed down through the generations within his family. Fane presses Turek to sound the horn, but Turek's servant cuts him off. Turek plans to give the horn to the Empress. The horn is linked to its sounder, and will not function for others until the sounder has died. Sounding it would send a message to the Empress that he intends to replace her. That would be overly ambitious and likely end with him in the hands of the Seekers for Truth. Turek tells Fane to entertain him, telling him stories although he may not believe them, and perhaps Fane will be given as a gift to the Empress. Fane is interested in having access to a ruler again, especially one who rules an empire. Turek says he will keep an eye out for the dark friends who pursue Fane. Chapter 35, Steading Sofa. Rand, Matt, Perrin, Varen, Loyal, Inkter and the Shinarian soldiers are on their way to Steading Sofa. They plan to use the Waygate there to catch up to Pad and Fane and take back the Horn of Valir and the ruby-hilted dagger that he has stolen. A Waygate seems to be the only way they can travel to Tomon Head before Matt succumbs to being separated from the dagger. Matt looks increasingly worse and Varen tries to heal him repeatedly to no apparent effect. Perrin wants to know if they will be safe in the steading. Loyal says Shadow Spawn are afraid to go in and Aes Sedai don't like it, since they cannot touch the source inside a steading. Other creatures such as wolves are not afraid of it, however. As they pass through the boundary of the steading, everyone has a reaction to it. Rand feels a strong chill as if he fell into a winter pond, yet it is refreshing at the same time. The surrounding forest looks much the same, however. Inside, Aerith welcomes them and promises to escort them to the elders. She asks them to have some of the soldiers with weapons wait outside of the steading. Loyal explains the longing to Perrin, where Ogier begin to weaken and die if they are away from the steading for a long period. They move further into the steading and Rand can hear tree singing in the background. As they reach the stump at the center of the steading, they encounter 3 Ale Maidens of the Spear. The Ale are surprised to see them and get ready to fight, veiling themselves. They approach at a deliberate pace which causes the men to arm themselves, except Matt. Matt declares that he is leaving since he doesn't want to be killed yet won't fight women. Varen, Aerith and Loyal yell at everyone to stop, to no avail. Rand enters the void to defend himself, then realizes Satan is not present like it usually is. Then an older Ogier, Juin, comes out of the woods and asks the Ale if they've forgotten the pact, which finally causes everyone to relax. The Ogier says they are safe in the steading, just like everyone else. The Ale disappear into the trees, and Varen is led to the meeting place to see the elders. Varen seems to want to speak to the Ale but does not get the opportunity. The Ale stare at Rand and mutter contemptuously about his sword. The rest of the party is shown to a house by Aerith where they can await the decision of the elders. While they are waiting, Matt and Perrin tell Rand the Ale may be searching for him. They met another Ale on the way to Carrion who was searching for the Karikarn. Matt says that since the Ale are looking for an Ale on this side of the spine of the world and Rand is the only one known, it could be him. Rand denies being Ale again but remembers what the Merlin had said. Others had thought he was an Ale too. Huron is pleased to be inside the steading, as there has never been violence here, and the air has never been fresher for him. As they wait, many Ogier girls come to the house to provide services. Older Ogier women also stop in to make sure everyone is comfortable. They all take a look at Loyal as they leave, even as he is trying to hide himself behind a big Ogier book. Loyal worries they may be planning to settle him down with a marriage. An Ogier man has no choice to decline a marriage if his prospective wife and his mother agree. Rand assures Loyal that he'll be able to leave with them. Loyal bemoans his choices of either getting married or again risking his life in the ways. Finally, they are all called to meet with the elders. Chapter 36, Among the Elders. Rand and the others are being brought to see the elders of Steading Sofa. Rand suggests to Loyal that he wait outside so perhaps the elders will not dig into why he is outside while so young. Loyal is still very nervous because all of the girls and women seem to be sizing up as a husband or son-in-law. Aller, the eldest, greets them and tells them that Varen has requested to use the Waygate to pursue dark friends who have stolen the Horn of Valir. The elders ask Varen to examine Trail, an Ogier that traveled the ways long ago, to demonstrate the risks. She tries, but says he is simply an empty shell. Still, Varen insists that they need to continue via the ways despite the risks, and the elders reluctantly give their permission. The elders begin to speak of Loyal, but Rand cuts in quickly and says that they need him. Perrin, Matt, and even Inkter all speak on Loyal's behalf, but finally Varen says flatly that they need him to decipher the guidings in the ways, since he has studied them as few Ogier now do. Aller sees that Rand is Ta'veren and has drawn Loyal to him. She agrees to their request but firmly tells them see Loyal safely home when their task is complete. Aller says she will lead them to the waygates so they can be on their way. Loyal is all starry-eyed over a flower Aerith has given him. He finally presses it in the book he is reading. As they leave the steading, Rand can feel the return of his ability to channel. But when they open the waygate, Makin Shin is still waiting for them. They cannot use this waygate either, so Inkter says he will return to Carrion and pursue the horn from there. Huron suggests they use a portal stone since they previously saved time traveling with one. Varen says she does not know of any stones closer than the Ale Waste. Rand says he can find the one in Kinslayer's dagger, although that is still a few days away. Aller says the stones have not been used since the Age of Legends, and she did not think anyone knew how to use them. Varen says she knows how they are used. Aller says there is a stone not far from where they are and they go there with haste. Chapter 37, What Might Be. The Ogier Aller and Juin lead Rand and the rest of the group to a nearby portal stone so they can travel to Toman Head and retrieve the Horn of Valir and ruby-hilted dagger from Pat and Fane. Varen says goodbye to Aller, and the Ogier depart. Rand and Varen move close to the stone to discuss while everyone else stays further back, out of earshot. Varen has some knowledge of the stones. Rand mentions Selene and Varen assumes that she learned what she told Rand from the book Mirrors of the Wheel, of which there is no surviving copy known to the Aes Sedai. The symbols at the top end of the stone are used to travel between worlds, while the symbols at the bottom are used to travel between locations. Varen claims she is not powerful enough to activate the stones, and she only knows the meaning of a few of the symbols. Varen points to the symbol for Toman Head as well as symbols for other worlds that she knows were involved in the study that led to making of the ways. She tells Rand that he'll just have to arbitrarily pick one of these alternative worlds and quotes her father, saying that it's time to roll the dice. She says that the pattern needs Rand and hopefully that will be enough to keep him and everyone else alive. Rand chooses the world with the symbol of an arrow pointing left towards Toman Head, breaking free from a circle. Rand wants to break free from his apparent destiny. Varen calls for the others to gather close to the stone. She puts her hand on the stone, pretending that she is starting to channel. Rand enters the void and notes that it is much easier to do now. He channels using the symbols he has chosen. Instead of being directly transported to Toman Head, the travelers are shown the possible lives they may have lived had circumstances been different. Rand is subjected to many alternate lives where events and decisions had gone differently. As this happens, Varen realizes something that has gone wrong but cannot do anything to stop it. Rand is killed when Trollocs attack his home on Winter Night. Rand marries Egwene and has children and stays in the Two Rivers while events unfold outside. Egwene becomes wisdom and cares for his moods, which often cause lightning strikes and other storms outside. He is wasting away after Egwene's death until he goes off to fight Trollocs at the River Taryn and is killed. Egwene dies of channeling sickness, so Rand leaves with Tam's sword. Tam sends him off with a letter to join the army of Ilian and hopes he will return with a wife. But Rand is robbed in Baerlon and can only make it to Camelin where he joins the Queen's guards. He eventually falls defending Elaine from the Shan Shan. Countless other lives flash before his eyes, including ones where he is a beggar, king, gleeman, and even an ale. Sometimes he declares himself the Dragon Reborn, sometimes he runs from the One Power. Sometimes he marries Egwene, sometimes Egwene is the Amerlin's seat and gentles him. Sometimes he loves and marries Min or Elaine, or a woman he does not recognize. In each life, he feels that things are not right and something else was supposed to happen. Each one of them ends with his death and a voice inside his head saying, "I have won again, lose therein." Eventually he loses hold of Satan, and it is over. The rest of the party seems stunned by what they have seen of their alternate lives. Varen has no answers for Rand on what actually happened except that they did arrive at Toman Head, and it appears that 4 months have passed. They really didn't save time, although this way Matt doesn't die on the way. Inkter mutters fervently that he walks in the light. Matt apparently betrayed Rand in some of his futures and pleads with Rand that he would never really do that. Perrin seems resigned that his wolf brother aspect is part of his life now. Varen makes rounds of the party, healing them in some way that helps them get over what they experienced, all except Rand, who refuses help from an Aes Sedai. Rand hopes it is not too late, and that Pad and Fane is still waiting for him. Chapter 38, Practice. Egwene is practicing in her rooms at the tower. Nynaeve and Min are there with her, and they talk about how good-looking Galad is. They talk about Else looking at Galad intently in the courtyard, but Galad was only interested in where Egwene might be. Elaine comes in and says King Galdrian is dead, so there will be a war of succession in Carrion. Egwene has not dreamed of Rand for several months. Anya has been recording her dreams and comparing them to real events to test whether she is a dreamer. There is no conclusion as of yet. Nynaeve is in a foul mood after a visit to Shiriam's study after she clouded another accepted. They discuss the danger of drawing too much of the power and burning out. They ask Min what she sees. She says she sees danger around them and that it is a new viewing, different from what she has usually seen. Liandrin comes in and says Nynaeve should not be associating with novices since she is accepted. Min and Elaine are sent out of the room. She says Rand and the other boys are in great trouble from Sheol Ghul. She claims that Moraine sent letters to the tower inquiring about Nynaeve and Egwene. They need to go to Toman Head in order to help them. Nynaeve challenges Liandrin on what she has said and what she is not saying and why the two of them would be able to help. Liandrin tells them to meet her at the Ogier Grove, and tell no one because the Black Aja are in the tower. Min and Elaine come in, saying they heard everything from Elaine's room. Min says she's coming with them to get away from all of the prying by the Amerlin and Brown Aja sisters. Elaine says she's going too. Egwene and Nynaeve try to talk her out of it, and finally ask Min to try also. But Min shakes her head and says that Elaine has to come too, because Min has read them again and now sees that Elaine is part of the danger. Nynaeve begins making plans for the trip while Egwene worries about Rand. Chapter 39, Flight from the White Tower. Nynaeve, Egwene, Elaine, and Min walk through the tower grounds, wearing their best clothes, except for Min, who is dressed as a servant. They hope everyone sees them as just people waiting to talk to the Aes Sedai, like the other commoners and nobles in the tower grounds. Along the way they evade Takima of the Brown Aja and then Irella and Else, turning away before they can be recognized. They make it to the stables without being stopped, and Nynaeve gets the stableman to give them their horses. Liandrin had left word with the stableman beforehand that they would be coming. They make it to the Ogier Grove, and Liandrin meets them. Liandrin is furious when she sees Elaine and Min since they were not supposed to tell anyone. Elaine says they were not told, but overheard and wished to help Rand and the other boys also. Liandrin comments that she had made arrangements to take care of Elaine and Min, but not exactly what kind of arrangements. Liandrin leads them to a waygate, and opens it. Egwene and Bella go through the waygate too fast since time moves differently in the ways. She has to slow Bella down when they get across the threshold. Inside the ways there is a pressing darkness against the light such that the light is dimmer than it should be. Min asks how long they will be here, but Liandrin replies curtly that it will be as long as it takes. Liandrin is using a parchment to interpret the guidings and choose their path. They can all feel the power, but know that it would be tainted, and they should not touch Sadar. They stop to eat, the rest sitting away from Liandrin. Egwene asks what they should do if they encounter the Black Wind, and Liandrin says that she will deal with it. Min wants to know what it is, and Elaine explains. Egwene wishes somehow she can stop Rand from going mad, but realizes that if it could be done, the Aes Sedai would know. They discuss Rand, and Egwene mentions that she is unlikely to marry, so if one of the others marries Rand, she won't mind. Elaine says that Rand is the most interesting man she's ever met, and she might be interested if Egwene is not. They sleep, and Egwene dreams of the man with flames in his eyes. In the morning Liandrin leads them on, seeming to want this over with as fast as possible. They spend a long day traveling and a short night resting. Liandrin finds a waygate and announces that they have arrived. Chapter 40, Damani. Egwene exits the waygate followed by Nynaeve, Elaine, Min and then Liandrin. At least 50 soldiers in strange armor are waiting nearby. There were 2 women holding bracelets attached to collars worn by other women. There was also a palanquin with a woman reclining on it. Egwene asks Liandrin who they are. Liandrin tentatively greets High Lady Suroth, who is the lady on the palanquin. Suroth addresses Liandrin and tells her they must finish quickly so she can return before Turik misses her. Liandrin tells Suroth, referring to Egwene and Nynaeve, "These are the 2 of whom you were told." "There is another," Liandrin says, "the daughter Eravander," gesturing to Elaine. The Shan-Chan begin to collar the girls and a man grabs Elaine and Min. Suddenly chaos erupts as Min uses a dagger on the man and Nynaeve channels raising dust and wind that allows her and Elaine to escape. A woman clasps a collar around Egwene's neck. Egwene hits the woman holding the bracelet and feels as though someone has hit her. Some of the party are gone, chasing Nynaeve and Elaine. The woman holding the bracelet attached to Egwene's collar tells her that she is a Suldam and Egwene is Damani, and whatever hurt the Suldam feels, the Damani feels twice over. Rena is her name, and she says Egwene must do what she's told. Egwene asks Liandrin why they are here but receives no answer. Rena punishes Egwene through the Adam until Egwene tells her name. Then Rena pats her head as if she were a dog. Suroth makes reference to our master when speaking with Liandrin. Egwene decides she hates Liandrin for giving them to these people. She wants to know who this master they talked about is, thinking maybe it is the masked man from her dreams. When she asks about it, her Suldam says she does not need to know. Rena says that an Aes Sedai came up with the idea of the Adam. The party heads off towards Falme, and Rena begins to train Egwene. Nynaeve thinks at least one of the linked women can channel, perhaps both, but she did not get a good enough view of them. She called the lightning and tossed fireballs and killed at least one soldier. She is furious that Liandrin betrayed them, but the anger is fading and she can no longer channel. Elaine comes out from behind a tree and says that Min and Egwene must have been captured from what she saw. Elaine believes she is a coward since she ran away as soon as she was free. Nynaeve convinces her that the odds were too much against them to do anything else. Nynaeve says they will go to Falme after they find suitable clothes to blend in. They will trade the dresses they have for more suitable ones. Chapter 41, Disagreements. It is very cold and raining where they are traveling. Hurin is searching for the trail left by Fane and the Trollocs, but without success so far. Rand asks Varen to change the weather. Varen says she can't do much by herself, and she would also be detected by the Shan-Chan Damani who would come after them. Loyal seems to worry more about his books getting wet than himself. Perrin wonders aloud why Fane would bring the Horn of Valyr here. Varen and Inkter debate the matter without coming to a conclusion. Massima rides back to them and says there is a village up ahead, but all the villagers are gone. Inkter dismounts in front of what appears to be an inn. Uno takes the rest of the men and searches houses for food and blankets. Hurin says there was killing in some of the houses. Inkter insists he must have the horn. He sounds desperate. Rand still thinks that he wants to get away from Aes Sedai. He finally tells the group that Fane will harm Emond's Field if Rand does not find him, which was part of the message from Barthanes. Uno comes in, and said he could not find any people and most of the houses are stripped, and the livestock gone. Inkter begins to organize a wider search for the trail left by Fane. Rand goes upstairs and finds a lumpy bed. It will have to do as he lays down. He rolls around in the bed and suddenly sees Baalzamon is standing next to him holding the dragon banner. He calls Rand Luzdarin again, and asks if he will kill everything he loves again. Rand says he is not Luzdarin, and that he will die before he follows Baalzamon. Rand draws on Satan and hurls fire at Baalzamon. Baalzamon again says he is the only one who can help Rand learn to channel. Rand squeezes his eyes shut, and when he opens them again he is alone in the room. The dragon banner is exactly where he left it in his saddlebags. But he can see tendrils of smoke rising from the chair. Chapter 42, Falme. Elaine and Nynaeve have been in Falmey for weeks. Nynaeve is still sickened by the sight of Damani. She thinks she sees Pat and Fane among the crowds, followed by a high-ranking Shanshan servant. She has taken off the serpent ring. Elaine tells her she has stolen apples, and Nynaeve says she shouldn't steal things, but was surprised at how expensive everything was here. Elaine briefly channeled for a distraction to pull off the heist. Nynaeve has been trying to release Damani that they pass on the street, but the Damani are not interested in being freed. Nynaeve is still trying to figure out how to get those collars off. The two are staking out the Damani quarters, which they know as such because women have been seen taken inside to be collared. Nynaeve needs to figure out how to free Egwene before it is too late. Egwene looks out the window from her room. She can see Rena in the garden. Min is in another house but has fewer restrictions than Egwene. She uses the power frequently to try and remove the collar. The bracelet hangs on a peg on the wall. A Damani who tries to move the bracelet will feel ill. Min arrives for her weekly visit. She has a nice dress, and a ribbon in her hair. Egwene asks why she's wearing a dress, and Min says she had to. The Shanshan did not know what to do with her, since she does not channel the way Egwene does, so they decided she was a serving girl and should dress as such. Min says she has found a ship captain who is willing to take them away from the town. Egwene says she will have to stay here, as she cannot get out of the Adam. Egwene asks Min to give her a knife so she can demonstrate that Damani cannot even touch a weapon. Egwene has encountered two Aes Sedai who have been captured. One is Rima Galfry, now called Pura. Egwene asks Min to remember Rima and her since the Shanshan are going to send her by ship to Shanshan in a few days. Rena gave her a test yesterday and Egwene was able to pick out different types of ore while blindfolded, showing that she would be useful in delving for ore. Rena comes in and can tell that Egwene was channeling without permission. As punishment she changes Egwene's name to Tuli, after a pet kitten she once had. Chapter 43, A Plan. Min flees the Damani quarters as Rena punishes Egwene for channeling without permission and blames herself. She hears her name being called and turns to find Elaine and Nynaeve disguised in long fleece coats. She tells them of her meeting with Belle Doman and her plan to escape Falmey on a ship. Doman wants to leave but is afraid to do so because of the threat of the Damani. Min senses that if she just keeps talking to him, he will talk himself into leaving. But now the Shanshan plan to take Egwene back across the Aerith Ocean because she can find ore, so time is running out. Min has new viewings of Nynaeve and Elaine which mean trouble for both sometime in the future. A man's ring of heavy gold above Nynaeve's head. A red-hot iron and an axe above Elaine's head. The three women go down to the Three Plum Blossoms and near the docks to meet Doman. Doman says that Turek sends for him every 2 or 3 days to tell Turek about old artifacts, and he is concerned that Turek will kill him once he is no longer interesting. He would leave now except he is afraid that the Damani would tear his ship apart. Nynaeve shows him her great serpent ring to give him confidence that he can escape. At the same time Min sees Lan's golden crane signet ring from her viewing a short time before. Nynaeve promises that he will have 3 channelers to aid in his escape, and Doman agrees to be able to sail at an instant any time in the next few days. But he tells Nynaeve that he witnessed an Aes Sedai captured by the Shanshan, her warder killed. She may have been Rima which Egwene mentioned or another Egwene had seen. They leave the inn and Nynaeve comments that they still have 1 or 2 small problems to solve before they can take ship. Chapter 44, 5 will ride forth. Perrin is with Mat and Huron as they search for the Horn of Valir. They are scouting ahead of the main party. Huron picks up the trail of Fane who passed through the village they are visiting but not with Trollocs. As they decide to leave the town, Perrin sees Whitecloaks entering. After riding for a while, Perrin asks the nearby wolves to check if they are being pursued. The wolves see more Whitecloaks, but none of them moving the direction of Perrin. They decide to follow the trail a bit more before returning to Inkter. Bornhald sees Perrin and remembers that he was the lad who claimed to be a blacksmith. Bornhald does not want to hurt any of the villagers, so he plans to lock them up in the inn. They will eventually get the courage to break out, but that will be long enough. He is trying to avoid notice by the Shanshan or letting anyone get away who might report them. Shan patrols had fought with the children, and the one Damani they faced caused a lot of casualties. Bornhold did not like fighting their women, even the ones on leashes. He does not expect to leave Toman Head alive though, knowing that they will be fighting channelers. Bornhold incorrectly believes the channelers fighting for the Shan are Aes Sedai breaking their oaths to not use the one power in battle. He commands Bayer to hold himself away from the battle and then escape to report how things went. Bayer needs to survive to report that Aes Sedai are now willing to fight with the power and that the questioners had manipulated the rest of the children. He mentions that he had seen Perrin as they entered in the village to encourage Bayer to survive to return with the report. They do not see the huge winged shape above their heads. Ingtar watches Rand practice with the sword while they wait for the group searching for Fane. Rand is concerned that the scouting party is long overdue. Loyal is reading but clearly concerned. Varen is unaffected and is only using a stick to write in the dirt repeatedly before clearing it away and starting over. Ingtar comments on Rand's use of Heron waiting in the rushes, saying that he would find it irresistible to aggressively attack Rand in that stance, even while knowing he would be open to counterattack while doing so. Rand says that he is just practicing it for balance. Uno says there are horses coming. The others finally return and Matt says that they found Fane's trail and followed it close to Falme. Perrin tells Ingtar they also saw white cloaks. Ingtar acknowledges that Varen was right all along and they could have gone to Falme much earlier had he listened to her, but Varen is unconcerned over the delay, saying it is the pattern's design. Ingtar says he will take a small group with him to Falme since all the locals have said that anyone is free to enter the town. Varen manipulates the group so that only 5 men will set out for Falme, fulfilling the prophecy that 5 ride forth. Rand, Matt, Ingtar, Perrin, and Huron are the ones chosen either because they are needed or because they volunteered before others did. Many more wish to go, but Varen is firm and there are no more objections. Varen draws spokes of a wheel in the dirt as the party members are chosen. Then she scuffs the wheel and Rand sees that one spoke is missing. 5 ride forth, and 4 return is the passage in the Carryathon cycle. Chapter 45, Blade Master. Nynaeve, Min, and Elaine set a trap as part of the plan to rescue Egwene. It is early morning when there are few people in the street. If anything goes wrong, Nynaeve plans to create a distraction so the other 2 can get away, but she won't let herself be taken alive. Nynaeve sees a Suldam and Damani pair and mentally angers herself with what Min told her of how Damani are controlled so she can channel. When the collar falls to the ground, the Damani punches the Suldam in the face. Elaine tries to get the Damani to come with them, but she runs away. Nynaeve grabs the Suldam, gagging her and putting a sack over her head. Nynaeve makes Elaine pick up the collar. They drag the woman through the alleyway and into a building. They take off the bag over the woman's head and tie her up. Nynaeve puts on the Suldam dress and puts on the bracelet. They had prepared dresses so either could be the Damani depending on the size of the woman they captured. Nynaeve says Elaine has to wear the collar but then decides to try it on the Suldam first. Min says the leash is not supposed to work on anyone who cannot channel. It is not supposed to work on the Suldam. Nynaeve prepares to interrogate the Suldam who laughs at her, but then she sends sensations through the Adam and the Suldam is now terrified. The Suldam, Sita, promises full cooperation and begs to have the collar removed. Using the collar sickens Nynaeve so much she cannot make Elaine wear it, and she hits upon the idea to incorporate Sita into their plan. Doman stands on his ship, waiting for the women and preparing the crew for a hasty departure. They will continue to wait unless Shan soldiers come. Rand, Matt, Perrin, Ingtar, and Huron enter the town separately so that they will not be known as a group. They stable their horses and continue on foot. Rand brought the dragon banner to keep Varen or anyone else from finding it. Now that they are in town, they stay together and let Huron follow Fane's trail. But Fane has been all over the town, and Huron cannot find a useful path. After wandering the streets for a while, Matt says he can feel the dagger in a big house with guards and Damani outside. There are also Grom outside, which Rand and Huron recognize from their trip through the mirror world. They amble around outside the house to an alley, trying to find a way inside without alerting the guards. They climb a garden wall, kill the guard in the courtyard, and pass through the kitchen. Matt leads them to the room with the dagger, and it is empty of people. The horn of Valir is on a stand in the room. Matt grabs the horn and the dagger, but they still need to escape unseen. Rand looks outside the window and sees Damani, one of which looks like Egwene. He says he has to get her out of here. Turek walks into the room with 2 servants and several soldiers. Turek was expecting to find Pad and Fane coming to steal the dagger. A soldier tries to take the horn from Matt. Matt slashes him with the ruby-hilted dagger, and he dies a horrible death. Ingter leads the others against the soldiers while Turek faces Rand. Turek is a blade master and believes Rand is one also since he wields the Heronmark sword. Initially Rand does not use the void and is getting the worst of the exchange. Turek is disappointed at Rand's skill and moves in for the kill. Rand realizes he has to stay alive to save Egwene and the void fills him, but not Satan. He switches from trying to defend himself to an all-out attack which succeeds. Rand sees blood on his blade and the High Lord on the floor. The 2 servants kill themselves ceremoniously while Rand watches in disbelief. Ingter and the others rush back into the room, bloodied. Matt says that all the servants prostrated themselves during the fighting instead of helping the other Shan-Chan or raising the alarm. Huron looks out the window and warns that people are coming. Ingter says they have to leave, telling Rand that he can't save Egwene by staying here. Rand leaves with the others but promises to return and free Egwene. Matt continues to keep the horn, despite Ingter's efforts to grab it. Chapter 46. To come out of the shadow. Nynaeve, Elaine, and Min are approaching the Damani quarters and see commotion up ahead from High Lord Turek's retainers. She is dressed as a Suldam holding an Adem linked to Sita, who is cooperating lest she be discovered that she can be leashed. Elaine and Min are dressed as servants. Min leads them to the room where Egwene Alvir is being held. Egwene is held by an Adem, and tells the others that she has been dreaming of Rand al'Thor coming. After being freed, Egwene slips into one of Nynaeve's spare dresses. Egwene explains that the Adem prevented her from moving it even it was just left lying around. Nynaeve places Sita's Adem on a peg in the room which they now know she can't move. Egwene then reveals that Suldam claim that they develop an affinity with women who channel, but this isn't quite correct. Suldam can actually channel. They are the women who can be trained to channel but do not have the spark. The ones with the spark end up as Damani. Suldam are picked during a feast day in Shan-Chan, where they put on the Adem to see if they can feel the other woman. They are then taken away to be trained as Suldam. Just then Rena walks in. Before she realizes what is happening, Egwene snatches a pitcher and throws it into her stomach. She jumps on Rena and snaps her old Adem round Rena's throat. She makes Rena feel pain through the Adem. Nynaeve pulls Egwene off of Rena. Egwene begins to sob, saying that they made her feel great pain through the Adem. The women discuss killing the Suldam for what they did, but Nynaeve says that would be revenge. Instead, Nynaeve delivers justice by leaving Rena and Sita in the room still held by the Adem. They leave the building unhindered and Min realizes that there is nobody on the streets. A Shan-Chan patrol walks towards them. They are discussing what to do when Egwene reacts violently and calls lightning down on the Shan-Chan, screaming that she won't be collared again. Many are killed and the rest flee. Then fireballs begin raining down on them and they have to dive out of the way. Nynaeve becomes angry and begins to channel lightning back towards the origin of the fireballs. She hopes Belle Doman is still waiting for them. Doman waits at the wharf. Lightning and fireballs begin to light up the sky, some falling close to where Doman is. Doman stops Edwin Cole from cutting the mooring cable. Fire and earth begins to spray all around Falme. Doman gave his word and won't leave till Nynaeve arrives. Geoffram Bornhold and his children of the light under his command wait near Falme. Lightning is ripping the sky. Bornhold sends Jarrett Byer away. Bornhold's mounted legion advances toward the Shan-Chan. Rand is trapped in an alleyway watching a group of Shan-Chan approach. They are trying to evade the patrols to escape the town with the horn. He is cut and bleeding from his fight with Turek Aladan. Ingter Shinua tells Rand that the horn of Valir must be saved. Paranibara, Matrim Kothan and Huron are at the other end of the alley watching another Shan-Chan patrol. Rand has a very strong feeling that Egwene is in trouble. He hears sounds of lightning and explosions further down the street. Inkter tells Rand that a man could hold 50 men in the alley. Songs have been made about less. Suddenly Inkter reveals to Rand that it was him who let a man inside Fal Dara, and that he did not know what that man intended to do until the arrow was shot. He didn't know either whether it was meant for Rand or the Amerlin seat. Inkter talks about his struggle as a man who was born to hold the borderlands against the Shadow, protect the Southlanders who don't even believe in Trollocs anymore. He explains that him turning to the Shadow seemed a logical decision to save the borderlands. Better the Shadow than Oblivion, like Karlan or Hardin. Rand is shocked, unbelieving. He asks Inkter to say it plainly. With unshed tears in his eyes, Inkter admits that he wanted to blow the horn for his own salvation, to wash away his sins so that he can come again to the light. Inkter also tells to Rand that whether he is a shepherd or a lord, he is a better man. He was never after glory, he was ready to give it up to save his friend Egwene. Inkter remembers the alternate lives revealed to him at the portal stone, that as many lives he had lived he never managed to escape from the Shadow. Sometimes he held the horn but he never sounded it. He always tried to escape what he'd become, but he never actually could. The Dark One would always require things of him, each one worse than the last. Inkter, now with dedication, tells Rand that there is always a price to pay, there has to be, and he hopes this time he can pay it. It is every man's right to choose when to sheathe the sword, even one like him. Inkter turns to face the Shan-Shan by himself to buy time for Rand and the others to escape while they can. Rand relieves him with the burial words of Sheenaran's, asking the light to shine on Inkter and for him to be sheltered in the palm of the Creator's hand. The last embrace of the mother welcome you home. Inkter is relieved, standing just as when Rand first met him, confident, relaxed, content. Rand departs with the others, leaving Inkter to his chosen fate. Another prophecy of the Carryathon cycle is fulfilled. 5 ride forth, and 4 return. Chapter 47. The grave is no bar to my call. Rand and Huron meet up with Mat and Perrin and they hear Inkter fighting back in the alley. Rand tells them that they must leave Inkter to his fate. It was his choice to stay behind to buy them time to escape. They mount up and leave. Mat has the horn of Valir tied to the pommel on his horse. After they make it to a hill overlooking the town, Rand tells the others to take the horn back to Varin. He has to go back to free Egwene. Mat disagrees and wants them to stay together. They can all return to help Egwene. Perrin notices that the Shan-Shan are forming up for a battle outside of Falme, and none of them can go back. Huron sees that there are white cloaks on the other side of them. They are trapped between the two armies. They all look at the horn and Mat comments that nowhere is it said that it can't be used before the last battle. Mat blows the horn. A fog rises and blankets the land. Bornhold hears the bittersweet note from the horn and sees the fog appear. He assumes it is the Tzeentchans' doing. He tells the legion to advance at a trot. The Damani begin to target his legion and men begin to die. He orders his men to charge and prepares to die. Rand's perspective changes and he sees all of the area around Falme, yet he is still standing next to his friends. Rand sees the white cloaks, and they die under the Shan-Shan swords. Rand sees the ships, and knows one is Beldomin's. Then shapes appear out of the fog and Rand know who they are. All those come back from the grave, the great soldiers of old, Arthur Hawkwing, Birgit Silverbow, and others. Surprisingly they are few in number. Only 100 or so. Rand addresses Hawkwing, the leader of the heroes, and says they need help him to drive the Shan-Shan back but also to save Egwene. Hawkwing addresses Rand as Luz Theron and says they will help. Birgit laughs, saying that Luz Theron always gets in trouble with women. Hawkwing feels something is missing and Rand produces the dragon banner. Hawkwing is pleased and says that they will follow the banner and Rand, the dragon, Mat and Huron start to believe. Perrin chops a nearby tree branch into a flagstaff and attaches it to the banner. Rand tells Huron to stay back, but he refuses and Hawkwing comments that possibly he will be a new hero. With Mat as trumpeter and Perrin as bannerman, they ride into battle toward Falme. The fog thickens as they continue riding and soon Rand finds that he is riding alone. Suddenly Baalzamon appears in the mist, which causes Red to rear abruptly and throw Rand off his back. Rand holds onto his sword as he soars through the air, but instead of landing on the ground he finds he is floating in the mist. He is alone with Baalzamon seemingly far above the battle. This is Rand's battle, even though he can see the others. He assumes the void and reluctantly begins to fight Baalzamon, who is armed with a blackshard staff. The battle fought by Rand with the Baalzamon is linked to the battle fought on the ground with Perrin, Mat and Hurin and the heroes of old. At first Rand fights defensively but then notices that if he retreats, the Shan advance. Baalzamon believes Rand blew the horn so that he is linked to it. This reveals to Rand that Baalzamon does not know all that goes on. Baalzamon admits that he is behind Egwene and Nynaeve being taken to the Shan so they can be carried across the ocean and not be available to aid Rand. Baalzamon insists that Rand must serve him or die, it is the only way. Finally Rand feels that he must sheathe the sword the way Lan told him in order to win the battle. He must win so that Egwene can be saved. He takes the sword form Heron waiting in the rushes, which leaves him open to attack, but which also allows him to strike home at his opponent. Baalzamon strikes and Rand receives a wound in his side that cannot fully heal, but he drives his sword into Baalzamon and wins the battle. Chapter 48, First Claiming. Min runs up the street, trying to find Egwene, Elaine and Nynaeve. She sees the spray sailing away, but doesn't blame Doman for leaving. She thinks she sees Birgit and Arthur Hawkwing fighting the Shan near the docks. She feels like she is being pulled by a string. She runs through a house and finds Rand in the garden behind, unconscious. The hilt of the sword has branded a heron mark into his palm. She finds the wound in his left side. With great difficulty she drags him inside and into a bed. He has no body heat, so she gets into the covers with him, trying to take away the icy chill of his body. Egwene appears in the doorway, saying that she and Elaine felt Rand pulling at her but Nynaeve did not. Egwene leaves to fetch Nynaeve to heal Rand. Min considers that there are 3 women destined to be part of Rand's life, one of them she doesn't even know yet. And she wonders which he will choose, or will he try to choose all 3? Someone else stands in the door, the most beautiful woman Min has ever seen. She says that Rand is Luz Theron Telamon, he is the dragon reborn. She wears a white dress with silver jewelry. She tells Min that she is Lanfear and that he is hers. Bayer, still close to where the battle took place, sees that Geoffram Bornhold is dead, and he thinks that a dark friend like Perrin must have betrayed them. He has to tell Dane Bornhold that his father is dead and Pedron Neal what he had seen in the sky above. Chapter 49, What Was Meant to Be. Rand wakes up in a forest with blankets over himself. He feels a tight bandage wrapping his abdomen, and sees Min sitting on the ground looking at him. She says they are 5 days east of Falme, and he's been sleeping this whole time. Min says Nynaeve and Elaine freed Egwene. Elaine, Egwene, Hurin, Mat and Varen are going to Tar Valon, taking the horn with them. There is a heron on both his hands now. He remembers the prophecies and realizes what it means. He tries to look at the wound on his side and Min says it is not fully healed. Moraine believes Nynaeve healed it a bit, and Varen did also, but they can do no more. Rand realizes Moraine is here, and he is still not free of Aes Sedai. Moraine responds to her name, and Rand tells her to go back to hiding. Moraine says she was not hiding, she was in Tomon Head doing what she could. Unfortunately she could not help the 2 Aes Sedai who were captured by the Shan. She says she did not send Varen to him. She wants to know if he found Fane. Moraine says Fane is worse than a dark friend. He is worse, more evil, a blend of 2 evils because he was infused with the soul of Mordath in Shadar Logoth. Mordath tried to take over his body but could not do it fully because Fane was already claimed by the Dark One. Moraine shows Rand his sword, but it is ruined now. Moraine tells him that he fought Baalzamon in the sky over Falme, and everyone saw it. She produces an illustration by a local artist of the event. Rand's likeness is unmistakable. He wants to destroy the parchment, saying he won't be the dragon, he won't break the world. But it is too late, he has followers now, and the tale is being told everywhere of how he fought the Dark One above Falme. She says that the pattern weaves itself around him, and he cannot run from it. He needs Moraine's advice to help him. His presence in Carrion sparked the present civil war even though he was trying to do nothing. The Black Aja revealed itself for the first time in 1,000 years. Arad Doman and Terban will likely be in chaos as a result of what people saw over Falme. She produces 2 more seals which are broken now. Rand decides he still has to find Fane. Rand gets up with great difficulty, and the women help him over to the campfire. Loyal is there reading a book. He is not unhappy that Rand is even more important than he knew. The dragon banner is standing erect in the middle of the camp. The Shinarans led by Uno gather around Rand and pledge allegiance to him. Rand tells them that Ingtar died in the battle a hero, and tries to get them to go back to Fal Dara with that news. Uno refers to the prophecies and says that the coming of the dragon breaks all bonds so they no longer need to keep their oaths to Lord Ajamar. Massima calls Rand the Lord Dragon. Moraine emphasizes that the last battle will come whether Rand likes it or not. Will he shirk his duty or do what he must? Rand finally decides he must accept what the wheel has woven for him. Chapter 50. After. Tales of a great battle and the dragon reborn spread across the land, sparking conflict between those declaring for the dragon with those opposed. There are many variations with varying degrees of truth, but the part about the dragon appearing in the sky above Falme is constant. That was a recap of The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. The Wheel of Time Book 2.